Today, Manitoba now has a Jewish lieutenant governor, an Anishinaabe premier, a gender-balanced cabinet, and a government MLA team that represents many walks of life from so many regions of this great province. And I believe that this sends a message to every young person in Manitoba that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, and no matter which barriers you have to overcome on your life's path, that the road to success is open for you. And now it will be a responsibility of our government to ensure when that young person takes that first step that we, along with the rest of the province, are there to ensure that they can pursue opportunity and reach their full potential. We know that people in our province can't reach their full potential unless they have a strong healthcare system. And our government's first commitment to you is to fix healthcare in Manitoba. We were elected to staff up the healthcare system. We were elected to improve the culture in the workplace for those who work in healthcare. And we were elected to bring services closer home to you, the people of Manitoba. And today that work begins. I want to say to those working in our health system that we need you. To the nurse who worked overtime, was mandated to work overtime last night. To the physician who is feeling overwhelmed today. To the healthcare aide who doesn't have the resources to deliver the care that they want. To the paramedic who's just found out that their program was cut. Help is coming. We need you to stay on the front lines, and in the coming days, our government is going to join you to do the thing that we all want, which is to deliver the best quality of health care right here in Manitoba for the people who need it. Ensuring that we have the best quality of health care has to go beyond just the Ministry of Health. And that's why I am also asking today the Ministers of Families, of Labor and Immigration, Environment and Climate Change, of Education and Early Childhood Learning, of Justice, and of Advanced Education and Training to work together across departmental lines to improve the health of Manitobans in a coordinated fashion. I've often said that the way that we do difficult things is by doing them together. And there are fewer tasks confronting our province right now that are more difficult than trying to repair healthcare. And so that's why we are going to tackle this great challenge together in our government team. But also, we're asking you for the chance to work together across Manitoba to deliver these needed improvements. Our government at the cabinet level will work together across these lines to improve healthcare across Manitoba, to invest in more staff resources, but also it is our hope that in the coming years we will be able to deliver on a very, very important commitment. And our province should be judged when it comes to health on this indicator. Let's ensure that more Manitoba children see their 18th birthday. I think that's something that we can all agree on. Our government's commitment to health is so important that I've also named our Minister of Health the Deputy Premier of Manitoba. Minister Isreal-Palenstine has long been an advocate for better health care. They know what it's like to work on the front lines of our healthcare system. They've cared for Manitobans at the bedside. They worked as a registered psychiatric nurse. And they called for better healthcare across the province as an MLA for many years now. And I am proud to name somebody who knows our healthcare system and respects healthcare staff to lead our government's approach to improving the health and well-being of the people of Manitoba. Minister Asaguera is also a member of the Nigerian-Canadian community. Black people have lived on these lands for hundreds of years as fur traders, as interpreters, as people who negotiated and signed treaties, and they have lived as part of Indigenous in Manitoba communities ever since. And today, the Deputy Premier of Manitoba is a Black person. Manitoba's Deputy Premier is also queer and non-binary. You, the people of Manitoba, have elected to our team. The Deputy Premier of Manitoba is a Black person. Manitoba's Deputy Premier is also queer and non-binary. You, the people of Manitoba, have elected to our team also a trans person and many members of the 2S LGBTQ+ communities. And I want to say, at this time of increasingly harmful rhetoric, two members of the Two-Spirit and LGBTQ+ communities, that you have many voices around our government table, and you have an entire team of allies in government. With Minister Asaguera and our entire team, we now set to work on repairing healthcare in Manitoba. We know that we will only repair our healthcare system if we have a strong economy. I have said many times that the economic horse pulls the social cart. And now, you, the people of Manitoba, have handed our team the reins. And we are committed to being responsible stewards of the provincial economy and balanced when it comes to the books. We will help you, the people of Manitoba, to reach your full potential by making our economy work better for you. We've heard your message loud and clear. People are struggling right now, struggling to get by at the grocery store and at the gas station. And so to all people, from the inner city to the suburbs, in rural Manitoba, in northern Manitoba, we are going to deliver on affordability for you. We are going to lower costs at the gas station, and we are going to make your Manitoba Hydro bill more affordable. The best way Now, the best way that we can do that is by strengthening the Public Utilities Board and by ensuring that we always keep Manitoba Hydro public. We're also going to make sure that more people can call Manitoba home by ensuring that there is more affordable housing. And of course, we need to ensure that the ag industry and the manufacturing sector not only continue to remain strong, but are well positioned for growth in the years to come. At the same time, we know that there are many energy industry opportunities that we need to pursue. All of these priorities are important. And that's why I've asked, and I'm asking right now again, the ministers of economic development, investment, trade, and natural resources, of agriculture, of municipal and northern affairs, of transportation and infrastructure, and of sport, culture, heritage, and tourism to work with the Minister of Finance to deliver a concrete plan that makes it easier for everyone in this province to join the workforce, to join a union, and to join the middle class. Our team knows that the success of our government will be judged on how well we deliver help to Manitobans during this period of inflation and how well we position our provincial economy for success in the years to come so that our children and our children's children can enjoy even more opportunity on these lands than we do now. And of course, in order for us to guarantee these opportunities for future generations, we have to be responsible stewards of the lands, of the water, of the air we breathe, and we must take action to confront the existential crisis that is climate change. There could perhaps be no better reminder of these priorities than to have our event here at the Leaf. And so truly, today, as a province, we are turning a new leaf over together. Now, so far, I've name-checked every government minister except for one. And she is in charge of our government's newest ministry. She is in charge of the Department of Housing, Addictions, and Homelessness. Our goal here is simple, but the task is immense. It is to solve the challenge that we see each and every day when we drive by bus shelters, bridges, when we visit downtown Winnipeg or downtown Brandon, the city of Thompson, communities like Dauphin, everywhere in our province today. It is to respond to the humanitarian crisis we see on the streets with dignity and compassion. We want to end chronic homelessness in this province within the next 8 years. We want to end chronic homelessness, and as a first step today, we are announcing that the services necessary to get people off of the street and into housing, and then the wraparound services that are necessary to ensure that they are successful in staying there will now be under one government department, under one roof. Our approach to ending chronic homelessness will be to bring everyone together around the table and to say, no more barriers, no more excuses, let's just get to work and do what needs to be done to ensure that we help our relatives get off the streets. We're starting that project here today with the way we are setting up our new government. Minister Smith is a good choice because she speaks the language of government, but she also has a life experience that our relatives who are out there will be able to relate to. I'm sure people will look at Bernadette and say, she's done good, so can I. As our province's downtown, for people who see the challenges in areas where you have never seen them before, like in South Pembina, or in West Winnipeg, or in a bus shelter on Regent, in rural communities. We are going to deliver results, and we are going to ensure that when you visit any of the communities that I just named, that you are going to feel safe, happy, and proud of Manitoba. In today's ceremony, under the watchful eye of our Lieutenant Governor and in the presence of the Great Seal of Manitoba, we paid tribute to the 7 Indigenous nations of our province. We lit the kuluk of the Inuit. Apologies for my Inuktitut accent. One of the leaders of the Anishinaabe of Treaty 1 showed us what a land acknowledgement can be. We were greeted by the wisdom and magnanimity of a Dene leader from northern Manitoba. We were blessed in the language of the Anishinaabe. And I want to say wopida to the Dakota Oyate for singing, for standing with us, and for presiding over today's ceremonies. Of course, we had our spirits lifted by the jigging of the Métis Nation. And before we conclude here today, we will hear a blessing on behalf of the Cree people of Manitoba. It's important that we pay tribute to these 7 Indigenous nations. And I want to say that there is a structural change we are bringing into government as well today. It has been the long-standing practice that the Premier also appoints himself the Minister of Intergovernmental Relations. And up until now, intergovernmental affairs has meant the federal and municipal levels of government. But starting today, I am also appointing myself the Minister responsible for Indigenous reconciliation. And the message that I am sending is simple, and it is to the leaders of Indigenous governments across Manitoba. Our government will recognize you for what you are, the leaders of governments. Governments just like the other orders of government in Manitoba, Canada, and across North America. But true reconciliation is not just about building relationships between levels of government. It is about building better relationships between people. And so to you, the people of Manitoba, I am committing to take personal responsibility within our government to build better relationships across all of our communities in Manitoba. We are one people, and we all have the right to be treated equally. And I want to say that I will be a leader for all of us in Manitoba. Today, I am wearing a headdress. Tomorrow, I will be chairing a cabinet meeting at the Manitoba Legislature. And through it all, I will be working alongside our government team to fix healthcare, to lower costs for you, and to make you proud of Manitoba. And as we undertake this work in government and at the cabinet table, I will be surrounded by people from Brandon, from rural Manitoba, from the north, people from different cultural communities, and a table that is half women and gender diverse people. And it's important to acknowledge that on Persons Day, which is today, October 18th, a day in Manitoba which honors when some Manitoba women got the right to vote. Amongst that group of people, sitting around that table will be farmers, teachers, nurses, people with backgrounds in management and finance, people who had to overcome a lot in order to get where they are today. And I believe that this is precisely the team to deliver results for you, the people of Manitoba. In short, we will be able to help you because where you are, we've been there too. And so now the real work begins. And to people in rural Manitoba, I want to say this. that if you look at a political map of the province, some 70% of the landmass of Manitoba is now represented by our team. And we take that honor seriously. And we are going to deliver results for everyone in this province. And finally, to my family, to Lisa and to the boys, I want to thank you so much for everyone who's made sacrifices and who have contributed to bringing us here today. You earned this with the sacrifices you made, with the campaigning that you did, with the support that you offered. You did it by waving signs on Osborne, by making fundraising calls, by putting up with me before I had my coffee, by accepting me as your Timbits hockey coach, even when I'm not the best skater, even at beer league. But seriously though, I cannot put into words the immense gratitude and appreciation that I feel for you, our family. Lisa went from stops on the campaign trail and then rushed to the clinic. Our middle child had to take over for decorations at birthday parties. Our oldest had to put on the skates and coach hockey for his youngest when I couldn't make it, and so on and so forth down the list. I do not know what I have done in life to deserve the amazing and beautiful family that I have. But I will tell you that I am going to commit every day for the rest of my life to repaying the debt that I feel I owe to you. And to you, the people of Manitoba, I feel exactly the same way. You have asked our team to perform an awesome task. You have handed us an awesome responsibility. And I don't know that there is any other way that we can respond other to accept with great humility and commit to you of the people of Manitoba to working to the utmost of our ability for every single day of the next 4 years to make this province a better place. And the tasks that you have asked us to deliver on, to improve healthcare post-COVID, to deliver relief on inflation during a global economic inflationary crisis. These are extraordinarily difficult tasks, and I want to say that I understand the challenge before us. But I greet it with optimism, humility, integrity, and sincerity, because I have been inspired by you, the people of Manitoba, to know one thing. The way that we do difficult things in this province is by doing them together. So thank you so much for this honor. Miigwech and merci.
Buffy Premier. I will now call upon Dion Halcrow of Cross Lake for the closing prayer.
Nash Comun, ano saga, kami nag-Israel. I'm very thankful today for the beautiful day that we have. Umay sa nas peteso ka nini tago kay gisteni tago guguni kani kamawan sito check. Gisteni tago check. Okay, sagi ta chugumena kay witawin sa Manitoba kay tsagatek miswas kami kaginagina Manitoban kay tigayak. Kyan puisis na usya kyan puite wetutiak. Ewieto skagwagok ewinigani stagwag awana peo kaginawa sunit nistamawats iniwit sa ewinigani stagwag tapos kistenitawan niyo tatos kewin. You know what I had just said, that we are all Manitobans here. And we have great Manitobans to lead us. And it's such an historic day this, to have one of our own, to be our premier, our leader. You know, our people, a spearhead or the arrow has a pointy thing to lead, to guide, wherever you point it, and it penetrates and goes forward. Wap's the one, our spear, he's the head. And Wap is walking on a pathway. When I met him a few years ago, and I offered to pray for him, and he encountered through that prayer and his life, inspired to be the great leader that he is today. I can never imagine that prayer, the power of prayer, it does happen. No matter who you are, no matter how you believe. When I'm at my hometown in Pimitsicamagan, I'm on my local radio station, I always ask for prayer. Lift up this man that you hear on the radio. Because you don't realize the issues I have or the friction of life that comes my way. But I don't give up. I love my people. And I know Wab loves our Manitoba. And I know the Cabinet people, you love your Manitoba. I see it. And I'm so proud, I'm so honored for the invitation to come and pray. In our language, they call us Amigimawak, Utayamiyawak, meaning a minister, meaning someone who prays. That's me. And I pray a heartfelt prayer with my whole heart. I pray. You know, I always use this when I go do bereavement duty when people are grieving, when they have their most tragic loss in life. Psalm 121, where does my help come from? And you look up to the mountains. The maker of heaven and earth is the one. That's where your help will come from. The Cabinet people, as you do your duties and roles and responsibilities, being the Premier. So let's bow our heads, close our eyes, and I'll say a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, maker of heaven and earth, creator God, we see how the heavens are. We feel the sun rays as the sun begins to shine. We see the clouds as they float through the miraculous sky. Lord, you know every thought, you see every mind, you know every heart, and you see what's in the heart of our great leaders. The Cabinet, Lord, thank you that they're willing to commit and dedicate their lives. Thank you to the families of our leaders. Thank you for giving your loved ones to lead us and to guide us. And Lord, we thank you for this man, the newly elected Premier of Manitoba, Wap Canoe. Thank you to the wife and the children. Lord, that you would bless not only their families, but all of our families in Manitoba. That you would bless our communities, Lord, all over Manitoba. That you would be with them, that you would give them knowledge and understanding, and you would reveal thy glory that comes from heaven, Lord, to rest upon them. Even if they feel like it's so hard, they're overwhelmed with the issues, they're overwhelmed, it's like they need more wisdom. Let wisdom that comes from heaven, Lord, that comes from above, begin to rest and give them that wisdom, even beyond their knowledge, even beyond their age, that they would have that wisdom and the knowledge, Lord. And I know, Lord, that none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. We have flaws, and I know our cabinet people, I know our premier, he has flaws and weaknesses, and they're limited in their capacity to lead, and that's when we need you, Lord. We ask that you would carry them, that you would be with them in the next 4 years. And Lord, help us. Every Manitoban, Lord, no matter what we look like, but on the inside, we're the same, Lord. Papego na siya with the pizzawi. And Lord, that we begin to be like, accept one another, and to love one another, and to work together as a unity, as a unified community. Thank you, Lord, for this time. Kinay sa nas kumitag man to. Suwayan itago siya mira man to. Osmeta suwayan itamama the government of Manitoba. All the leaders, all over the communities, bless them, Lord. Bless the mayors, Lord. Bless their members. Bless the legislation office, Lord, and all the people that work in that office, Lord. Bless the premier. Bless him as he leads and guides, Lord, his cabinet people. Give them confidence and give them strength, Lord, that you would fight for them, but also that you would give them grace, Lord, that they are limited. But Lord, you're so unlimited. Kinay sa naman to, ay may sige kasuhanin, itago siya nga kaskitaan niya man to, steady tawang natin, itago mo taramawat sitwa. So when even those that are watching us through social media, Lord, that you would bless them. And Lord, that we would lift up these leaders, to cover them in prayer, daily, and to smile or shake their hands or to greet them and to encourage them, to compliment them that they're doing a good job. Keep doing it, don't quit, and that they would do their job as they enter the offices, Lord. Thank you. In that wonderful name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Kinanaskamatin again, thank you so much. Please welcome back the Dakota Hotain Singers for the closing drum song.
Siguro swagweg, kalahindini gets wagisli wagini wakitoloda, anida agungwe winaga, ani bojo, danse, okinapi, how, yako, ikotonlas, So they cut that a little short. The drummer was enjoying that. But anyways, I didn't know that the swearing-in ceremony was happening today, so we didn't catch it from the beginning, but we caught I think we caught the biggest chunk of it, fortunately. So, quick reminder, at 2 o'clock we are going to be jumping in and listening to Buffy Sainte-Marie. She's going to do a talk that's hosted by the um, Downey Wenjack Foundation. So I hope that you will be here for that. I know there's a couple of short things I wanted to share. I'm just trying to. There's one that I know I saw last night, and I can't figure out I can't remember where I saw it, which I'm still trying to look for. But let's see if I can get to what I just. So I'm going to take my screen off here. There's a couple quick short things I just wanted to. They're only about a minute long or so, but you'll get it when you see it here.
But Leonard has 2 life sentences.
He's a good man.
It's a hard thing to be locked up in a cage.
We have our freedom. How could we ever give up or quit?
And Leonard's been strong, and we need to be strong amongst ourselves.
Remember him in my prayers.
Poor Leonard. I pray for him. Leonard has become very symbolic to many people worldwide.
Wish that he would be free so he can come back.
In order for us to get Leonard back, we're going to have to exercise our power.
But right now, we still got a lot of work to do. And Leonard represents that same feeling, that same understanding that today Indian people are losing their lands. They haven't got much left.
I am everyone who ever died without a voice, or a prayer, or a hope, or a chance.
Leonard Peltier is a Native American activist who has been in prison for more than 46 years, serving 2 consecutive life terms for a crime he maintains he did not commit. In 1977, he was convicted of killing 2 FBI agents, Ronald Williams and Jack Kohler, during a shootout on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Peltier was a member of the American Indian Movement, AIM, founded in 1968 during the Civil Rights Movement to advocate for the rights of Native Americans. The murders occurred at a time when AIM supporters and residents of Pine Ridge were being intimidated and killed, allegedly by paramilitaries connected to the government. A climate of fear and terror prevailed. After 2 AIM members were acquitted of the killings, the FBI coerced witnesses into saying they saw Peltier shoot the agents. Ballistics evidence that could have aided Leonard's defense was hidden from his lawyers.
The only thing I'm guilty of is struggling for my people. I didn't kill those agents.
It was not a fair trial, the conclusion reached by federal appeals judge Gerald Heaney, who stated, the prosecution withheld evidence favorable to the defendant, and the FBI used improper tactics in extraditing Peltier and otherwise in investigating and trying Peltier's case.
I'll be an old man when I get out. If I get out.
Leonard Peltier spent more than 46 years in prison, some of which was in solitary confinement. He is now 78 years old and in rapidly declining health. There are concerns that he is not receiving adequate medical treatment and his condition could be fatal.
They're giving him the death penalty by leaving him in that type of an environment. The man needs medical treatment. He needs to have access to medical treatment. If they're not going to give medical treatment to him, they need to release him as soon as possible.
Amnesty International is calling on President Biden to grant Leonard Peltier clemency before it's too late. President Biden has a chance to rectify a case that has troubled many people for decades. It's an appeal supported by several Nobel Peace Prize laureates, including the late Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, and dozens of religious and human rights leaders from the U.S. and around the world. Please join them and add your name to Amnesty's petition to President Biden. It's time to release Leonard Peltier.
This is an issue that has been going on for a lot of years, and there have been a lot of people who have been behind Leonard Peltier being released from. In fact, there's a documentary out called The Incident at Oglala, which was produced by actor Robert Redford and has interviews with some of the investigating policemen, FBI, former FBI agents, and ballistic specialists, as well as some of the activists that were at Pine Ridge, like John Trudell, etc. So it's a good documentary to see. And if you're looking for something that's a little, I guess, palatable, there's a movie out called Thunderheart, which features Val Kilmer, which is kind of based on that the documentary. So if you ever see that, that's another good movie to watch. It is not completely factual. It takes some Hollywood liberties with the storyline, but the concept is still the same. You know that. So I hope maybe you would take a thought and take a look at that. So I know that it's only half an hour till Buffy Sainte-Marie is going to talk. So we're going to jump into to that discussion and hear her. And I think she may be open for some questions at the end of the talk. So hopefully we can get something in there for her. In the meantime, though, I guess what we'll do is I'm going to still look for that one program that I saw last night that I wanted to share because it had a talk with kind of like a little talk with a Lakota leader and a Jewish leader, kind of all giving both giving kind of a perspective on what's happening in the Middle East right now. And so it was really good. And I wish I knew what I did with it. So I will try to continue to look for that. In the meantime, I guess what I'll do is I will play a rendition of The Peaceful Warrior to kind of get things on the screen that you're not just looking at my mug. So let me get my face off the screen here again and get something here played, and then try to see what we can fill our next half hour up until Buffy starts.
My name is Ryan, and I'm at war for peace. All senseless attacks I see I must cease. So what am I doing here, and what do I really want to say? Is that this world has got to change its way. See, I'm going to fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. Gonna fight for the ones who can't fight back. And I'm talking about all the creatures from the water to the sky. I'm talking about all the issues, from the truth to the lies. And I'm gonna make my stand with the paper and a pen. You wanna argue that, go back to bed again, 'cause you're never gonna win against what I stand for. So sit down, shut up and listen as I give my grand tour. I'm gonna tackle the corruption in our government. I'm gonna tackle the poison in our environment. I'm gonna tackle the injustice for the people. I'm gonna hit every target or I won't keep still. And I'm gonna battle the battle of battles. I'll shake off the cage until it rattles. 'Cause you're never gonna get rid of me. Not until the problems of the world are cut at the knee. Know what I'm saying? Let me kick this out one more time, so crystal clear is the message in rhyme. My name is Rye, and I'm a war for peace. Oh, senseless attacks I see must cease. I'm gonna fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. I'm gonna fight for the ones who can't fight back. So let's keep passing around our information, so we can improve this planet through education. Somebody has gotta make the people aware. Someone's gotta make everybody care. So pass my message if you dare. And whether it's mine or yours, we all got to share. 'Cause there's more power in one man's voice than all the weapons of military choice. Of military choice. So with my voice and your voice, we can shout out loud that we belong to the human race, and that we are proud. You don't have to be a master of science to see that we need to create a worldwide alliance in order to approach the corporations that's taxing people for their insubordination. When they bring what's happening to our waters and the disease spreading through our slaughters. So what about the government officials that stand behind them with their backdoor handshakes and verbal deals that bind them? We have seen how the world can be devastated through the actions of men with minds of hatred. Look at Hitler, Charlie Manson, and even Osama. These are the men who caused us trauma. These are the men who caused us trauma. Then we have the cops with hookers in the basement, in the backseat. We have punk-ass teens knifing each other in the street. We have drug dealers hooking up kids with crack. There's a lot of shit in this world. It's just whack. We have people who stand up for the rights and get shot down. Well, you better batten down the hatches, 'cause we're heading into the next round. There's no getting through a war without losses. Lenin, King, and Gandhi are all on symbolic crosses. Speakers of the past are gonna inspire speakers of the future. And we're gonna try to heal this world with a metaphorical suture. My name is Fry, and I'm at war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. But I won't be able to move this world alone. So just remember, this is also your home. So if I put my voice with your voice and we shout together, why people gonna hear us and things are gonna get better. And things are gonna get better.
Well, there you have Familiar Fry doing his rendition of The Peaceful Warrior. I thought, now he didn't practice that, so that was kind of one of those things that was just on the fly. So as soon as he saw the words and lyrics, as you can see, he made a couple of errors along on the way, but that was okay. I think he did a great job of it. You could barely tell he made an error, but um, I found the file I wanted to um, share, and this is called "Let Us Humanize One Another." So this is a talk on the Israel-Palestine conflict from an indigenous perspective. So let me get this started for you.
All right. Well, I love that we are here on Friday the 13th. I always love auspicious days. I mean, I can't tell you how happy I am that finally I get to meet my brother here after how long of communicating with one another. And now you're here actually on the land that I caretake. And you brought this awesome gentleman here, Dove. And I'm just curious because, we're going through such incredible times again. I mean, it's always a renewal of the news headlines that's just rocking everybody's world, and now this last wave of attacks, in the Middle East have really hurt my heart and hurt my soul because it brings me too much into a 500-year history into our lands here, what we've had to deal with. So I'm just really curious to speak to you as an exiled Jew living all over the planet and trying to bring justice and truth out into the world. And of course, Chase, I'm curious because, as an indigenous man to these lands, I would really love to just hear your take right now on what you need people to hear about this very situation.
Yeah, I'll try not to talk for too long, but I think it's always important when complicated things like this happen to lay out the fact that there's no such thing as a monolith, right? Like the Israeli government doesn't speak for obviously all Israelis, it doesn't speak for all Jews, but its actions are what matter far more right now than its words. And so it's easy for us who are critical of settler colonialism, who are critical of hyper militarism, it's easy for us to just not even think about the nuances. But it's important to start with the fact that Israel is a nation state with a military with enormous backing from the West, both now and over the last century or so. But it's not the spokesperson for the Jewish people. It's not the spokesperson for anti-Zionists. It's the spokesperson for a nation state with its own military, strategic, power-focused interests. And the same is true of Palestine. Hamas doesn't speak for all Palestinians. There are, a great deal of Palestinian resistance groups that have been marginalized, both by groups like Hamas and also by the Israeli government, which would rather have a violent resistance to deal with than a peaceful resistance to deal with, because peaceful resistance it's easy to win over hearts and minds when you're advocating nonviolence. We've all are taught that in school. Martin Luther King, Mandela, Gandhi, and so it's currently working in Israel's favor that the Hamas leadership is orchestrating this massively violent campaign that at least last week targeted Israeli civilians at a music festival. But that's just to back up and say that when we speak about these terms, people want things to be simple. Things are not simple, but at the same time, we do need to focus on the actions of two entities right now. One is the Israeli government, which has a regime of domination and siege and blockade over Gaza and occupation over the West Bank. What we don't see is the daily, settler policies that run Palestinian life to, a point of abject misery. I've spent almost 2 years of my life over there over the last 10 years cumulatively, and I had to separate myself from it because I witnessed things being done by Jews in the name of certainly Zionism and Israeli military control, but also in the name of Judaism.
I can feel the gravity of the situation, and part of it is because these human lives have been taken violently, innocent lives, women, children, people who are at a festival. And maybe that was the point of a group like Hamas, is to commit such an atrocious act that it shocks the conscience. And it forces us to take a look at the meaning of colonialism. How did we get to where we're at today? and as indigenous people of the of the Americas, of the Western Hemisphere, we are contending with some of the same things. And that's why I enjoy having Dove as a friend too, is because I consider myself to have been inclined to support the Palestinian liberation, because there's a lot of decolonization, a lot of self-determination, a lot of liberation that I see is common. And I've been there. And when I was there, I felt like this is where my grandfather was when the system was imposed on him and his family and our whole nations here in Turtle Island. This is what it felt like to have our movements controlled. I've never seen so many checkpoints as I did in Israel-Palestine. It's hard to talk about the use of violence because from Standing Rock, we made a strategic decision to be peaceful and prayerful and to stand in that power. And we were still labeled religiously driven indigenous jihadis. They use the term jihadi.
I remember that, yeah.
And that implicates a bias, an anti-Arab bias in the Western world that we're seeing, and we want to be truthful about it. You know, we don't need to take immediate sides, but what Hamas did goes against our indigenous ethos in warfare even. We don't do that. You don't kill women and children.
Correct.
Non-combatants. That is taboo. You do not do that. And so what has happened here has given the radicals on the other side in the Netanyahu government or in the defense minister. You saw this some of the things this defense minister is saying, calling people animals. You know, they deserve to be treated like animals. Giving Gazans less than 24 hours, over 1 million people to try to vacate a small landmass. I mean,
where are they going to go?
They're just going to go south in Gaza. It's a 25-mile by 7-mile strip.
But where are they going to go? They're not going to go to Egypt. Egypt has almost the same sort of barriers against letting them in. So where are they going to go? I mean, really?
There's an implied message. You're going into the ocean. We've got to humanize each other.
Yeah.
You know, the Jewish people are not necessarily Zionists or even Israelis. They deserve a homeland. Of course, we deserve a homeland.
Everyone does.
Everyone deserves a homeland. Nobody deserves the right to impose structural oppression. But we have to hold people accountable. People who are terrorists, who are conducting themselves like terrorists, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah or whether it's Netanyahu or the KKK, people who are doing that kind of stuff are enemies, foreign and domestic. And we have to hold them accountable.
Right.
And that speaks to the larger unification of our species.
I think part of the accountability Chase is talking about includes in honesty about history. Right? We live in a day today where people just say what they want. There's, people just make things up, right? There's social media today. But history is true, right? And in this conflict, you see a lot of fake news, right? You see things like Palestinian is a fake concept that's been made up. You see things, the Holocaust didn't happen. Part of human dignity in this setting is establishing a shared history that you can't argue with.
A shared history, like you just said.
Right.
Shared history is both sides being represented equally so we can rise to a higher level of what that looks like to cohabitate a land together.
But when before the state of Israel was founded, there were major voices who were eventually sidelined. Voices that were saying, if we're going to exist in this place, we need to not just cooperate with our Palestinian Arab neighbors, we need to live with them. We need to love them. We need to learn from them and build a community together.
It's like, let us humanize one another and realize that we either have lived through it somehow or our ancestors have, but let's just call it what it is. And it's a struggle truly for justice and for true liberation of all people.
Right.
So that innocent women and children are not just being massacred, no matter what side of the fence they're on. That's just not right.
We have the same with the Black Hills. It's like a mecca. Look at all the peoples in and throughout these valleys. Just this land is real powerful here. And the people who are benefiting from the violence and from the dialectic or the dynamic of people being clashing and warring with each other over time, that's obviously part of our evolutionary challenge. And they're going to try to bury the truth and try to bury, because there's the settler conscience is a guilty conscience.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so can you imagine if I'm the settler and I don't want you to be able to teach your true history because it upsets me and it upsets what I've taught my children, how to view you?
Right.
That's what we're doing with this banning books and critical race theory.
Right.
It's the same, at first it was politically correct. And then all the old settler guys didn't like to be politically correct. Now they don't like wokeness. Like whatever people are doing to try to liberate themselves from
truth. But truth is ultimately, it's about expressing truth, and let's just grow as a human race.
Right.
Yes, the human species thinks it has evolved, but one aspect of that is that it has graduated us from from submitting to dogma. So like, in different religions, there's a lot, they didn't adapt at all. They just said, hey, we're teaching the same stuff that we wrote 2,000 years ago, and this is what you're going to learn. And you're going to be a Christian, you're going to be a Jew, you're going to be a Muslim, you're going to be a Lakota traditionalist or whatever, a fundamentalist. See, my dad would be considered a fundamentalist, and he's a very hard line kind of guy. You know what I mean? And but I've tried to learn and tried to be eclectic and resmopolitan and try to.
I like that, right? Resmopolitan. That's a good one. That's a good one. Resmopolitan.
Because we're a human family now.
That's exactly it. I mean, how about indigenous knowledge worldwide probably has a lot of answers and a lot of solutions to a lot of the problems we're facing now, if only we could have a seat at the table.
Right.
Yeah, and I think people are looking now for purpose again.
Yes.
And those purpose, the answers are there with all of our ancestors, wherever they were from, because they all struggle with the same.
Right.
To hunt, to gather, to farm food, to survive, to keep the lineage going.
Right.
So I don't know. I think we're left at a place now. How can we affect change as artists, as activists, as lawyers? You guys are the dopest lawyers I know.
Don't hold it against it.
I won't hold it
Let
against
them know.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you leave us with just a couple of good thoughts of what you want people to really take deep into their core, into their heart and souls about what's happening right now in the world?
Yeah. There's so much of this bickering and posting and fighting. Too many people are talking. Too many people are giving their voice on this. And, I'm not saying people aren't entitled to their opinions. What I'm saying is there's people who have been spending years of their life researching this issue, living through this issue, feeling the pain and suffering of the issue, whether it's their family, themselves, their friends. Then there's people who, in the social media movement moments we have today, know there's clout and social capital that you can get from hopping onto this train. And I think when people take sides on suffering and violence, maybe they genuinely don't want suffering to exist, but they are also doing that because they realize that they can gain personally from it. That's a huge problem. And hey, to be fair, the U.S. is guilty party number one. I mean, they're all over the news media speaking more or less exclusively about Jewish and Israeli suffering and not Palestinian suffering, and that's been the trend for a long time. But do you really think the U.S. really cares about Israelis' Jewish suffering? Of course not. No, they know that there's money and military strategy to be made there, and they'd rather support the side that can serve their interests and not the side that they don't see as helpful to their interests. So that's where I'll leave it. I mean, we're not going to explain this conflict in 30 seconds.
No, that's why I wanted you to take it outside of just that particular conflict, but because on a global scale.
Chase and I have talked about this, but indigenous people of this continent know very clearly the ills of settler colonialism on one side and manipulation by Christian European hegemony and domination on the other. And what we have going on in Israel-Palestine are sides that have been screwed over by one of those forces. You have Palestinians being completely ravaged by Israeli settler colonialism. Then you have an Israeli state that, without the backhand deceitful dealings and honestly anti-Semitic dealings at points of European powers, would not be in this position. That said, the Israeli government has autonomy. They have agency to make other decisions. You can't just blame Israeli miscalculations and poor decision-making on the decisions of European powers 80 years ago. But there is a context here. And I think indigenous people have a truth. And that's why the mindsets and worldviews of indigenous people are really important right now. And the world's looking to native people right now in this context, because I think people understand that.
Yeah. Can you give your last thoughts on just that? But again, taking out of a local scope and bring it into a global scope, because ultimately, like you said, we're all of this earth at this point now.
There, we're in a time when Hamas is calling for a global jihad, and that's a very serious deal there, and we don't. But we have to analyze how we think. When I mentioned earlier at Standing Rock being labeled as religiously driven indigenous jihadis, well, there's a lot of implication there that comes from the war on terror. It comes from, my brother, he went to Desert Storm and Desert Shield. He went to war for Prescott Bush's sons, George W. and George H.W. and Dick Cheney. And my good brother, he suffered the consequences of those war profiteers. And so we have to really recognize if we're biased. If there's anti-Arabic sentiment here, then we should recognize that. If there's Jewish people are getting shot in mass shootings in their synagogues in the United States of America because of MAGA, because of the radical right. They're spilling blood in the United States Capitol. Jacob Johns was just shot right here in Tewa land, in Pueblo land, by one of these people from the radical fringe, the radical right, I'll say. And so those of us who want a different reality, who want a different world, have to strengthen ourselves spiritually and defend the land, defend the waters, because we are facing a corporate fascism. That's one thing that's a thread between Netanyahu, people like Trump. What's the guy's name in Brazil?
Oh, Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro. And indigenous peoples are finding themselves thrust to the front line because of our metaphysics, our mythologies, our cosmologies, our knowledge systems connect us right here. What the West might call animism. We have to defend it because that's who we are.
Close it out, Chase.
Well, I don't have that. We just want to thank you, man. And continue to seek your peace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do the same thing.
Give you what to do, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
No, I appreciate you guys coming here.
I love you. As I say those words in my head and think of you, it almost makes me cry. The miracle that you are, the love that you were conceived in, all that you mean to me could never be fully expressed with words. My love for you encompasses all. The moment you were born, I was filled with such an overwhelming appreciation to the Creator for blessing us with the miracle of your life. I was thankful for you, that you were healthy. You were all I had hoped you would be and 1,000,000 times more. I marveled at you. It was at that moment that I began to understand the true meaning of unconditional love. Because of you, my life changed forever. I was filled with a sense of responsibility and duty to you, to our family. I was on a mission to be the best provider that I could be. A good portion of my childhood was filled with dysfunction, struggle, and instability. I knew I didn't want that for you. I wanted you to know the opposite of all of that. Love and stability, peace and structure. I wanted you to have a home where you could thrive and grow, that wouldn't be here one day and gone the next. There are far too many broken indigenous homes, the endgame of colonization, oppression, and decades of failed U.S. policies. I don't know that I knew it by name at the time, but I wanted to end generational trauma and instability, starting with our little family. I often think of the hundreds of indigenous children who never got the opportunity to live their lives, who were cut down by U.S. cavalry charges, disease, or that disappeared at Indian boarding schools, never to be seen again. We must always remember them and do all we can with our lives so that they can live through us. Be proud of who you are as an indigenous person. Never let someone's lack of knowledge about you make you feel inadequate. Grow your hair, sing your songs, participate in your ceremonies. When we do these things, our people continue to live. Our ways are as old as the dirt. Our culture ties your spirit to the Creator, to your people, and to all those that have walked this earth before you. Through the Creator, you are connected to a power that is beyond this earth. Be proud of everything that makes you who you are. Know your value and your worth. You are a blessing. You are from the Creator. This land, it is your land. It is beautiful. It is our place of worship. It is a constant reminder of the magnificence of the Creator. It is healing, energy, and sustenance. It holds the power of our ancestors. Mother Earth is always there to recharge your spirit. Be still. Be present. When you need answers, wherever you are never alone. The Creator is everywhere. The Creator is in you. I remember the night at dinner when we talked about what you learned at school. It was November, Native American Heritage Month. You told us you learned about Chief Joseph, Sitting Bull, and Crazy Horse. And then out of nowhere, you began to sob. It was an anguished cry, a lament that I had not heard come out of you until that moment. The questions you asked through your tears were beyond heart-wrenching to your mother and I. Why did they do that to them? Why didn't they just leave them alone? Why did they kill him? That night I watched as a part of your innocence was replaced with righteous condemnation. You asked rational questions that anyone would ask when learning about the lives of these strong Indigenous men and their people. Ultimately, the answer is unfortunately as heinous as the atrocities committed against them so long ago. The wounds still remain open. The irreparable cost that has been paid by our ancestors lingers to this day. The opportunities I have today have been afforded me by Indigenous men and women who fought and resisted on battlegrounds all across this country that most in America know little to nothing about. Since the active, overt military campaigns against tribes and our people across North America came to an end, a slow and systematic erasure of Indigenous people has continued. It is the ultimate spinning of a narrative to serve an unrelenting thirst for money and land at the cost of exterminating parts of or whole tribal nations in the process. Stereotypes, misconceptions, and caricatures continue to portray Native people in a damaging and disrespectful manner. These covert weapons ultimately reduce the complex history of tribal, historical, and personal experiences into nothing more than desensitized, single-faceted representations. We are not honored by your mascots, your products, or your good intentions. There is either reciprocity or there is not. The Creator makes no mistakes. We all have a purpose that we are born to accomplish. So never let others limit or define your purpose or possibilities. The greatness of the Creator is inside of you, and what the Creator has for you, no man can stop. But that doesn't mean they won't try. Don't let their words discourage you. Don't let their insecurities stifle your growth. In 1877, when the Oglala Lakota chief Crazy Horse was forced to surrender at Fort Robinson, Nebraska, because the U.S. government had slaughtered tens of thousands of buffaloes on purpose, causing his people to face starvation, he was met with a hero's welcome. This, and his reception by military leaders at the fort, made some of the other chiefs very jealous of him. They feared that his popularity would cause him to be seen as the obvious leader of the Lakotas, and that their long-standing positions would be diminished. Through rumor, innuendo, and blatant lies, these leaders and their cohorts became complicit in an escalation of events that led to Crazy Horse being bayoneted in the back and killed. A great man, killed by a much lesser man. Always pay attention to what is going on around you, my son. Pay attention to what people do more than what they say. It is often the ones closest to you that stand to cause you the most harm. Pay attention to who is not clapping when good things happen to you. And in that moment when someone shows you how they are, you owe it to yourself to believe them. Then conduct yourself accordingly. Pray. As the Creator brings blessings your way, stay humble and never forget who you are. Never forget where you get your strength. Help other people and be compassionate. Treat people how you would want to be treated. It's not weak to be kind, even though some people may view it that way. Be a good man and honor the Creator, for nothing is greater than that. Nothing. Never be afraid to do what is right. I love your mother. I love her spirit, her strength, her smile, her eyes. She is beautiful. My grandmother, my mother, my sister, the amazing women who have taken me as their son, I am more because of all of them. You're blessed to have so many strong Indigenous women in your life. Treat your wife with respect, love, and compassion, the way you have seen done. Your children will learn from your example, and they will do as you have done. For as long as I am able, I will be there to lift you up, share with you what I know, pray for you, and love you with all that I am. I will walk with you as long as I can, but time stops for no one. Be bold, be brave, and go not where the whims of people would take you, but follow instead where the Creator leads you. Move with intention, knowing you are never alone. Weak hearts and cowards to the rear, strong hearts to the front. I love you.
She loved the water so much, and the water loved her back, whispering in her dreams. Water has no flag. Water knows no race. The earth's belly grew until her waters broke, and all of creation took its first breath.
I've been a water advocate since I was 8 years old. My Auntie Josephine, she inspired people globally, raising awareness and praying for the water. She did pass away about 6 months ago now. Her dying wish was for me to carry on her work.
A young leader from Canada. She's known as a water warrior, internationally known for the work that she has done and the issue of safe and clean water. Autumn Pelche, she's been on...
I know there are people in this room who deeply disagree with our position to move ahead with the Kinder Morgan pipeline.
What did you want to say to him?
I just said to him, I'm very unhappy with the choices you made and broken promises to my people. Then he said, I understand that. All I said was the pipelines, and then he said, I will protect the water.
The water is the lifeblood of Mother Earth, and without that lifeblood, none of us would be here. Nothing would be here. Where I come from, when the Creator molded us, pieces of us fell down. When those pieces hit the earth, they started to grow up as medicine. When the water's contaminated, the medicines are contaminated. Certain medicines don't grow anymore. Certain animals don't migrate in certain territories. When they're eating contaminated vegetation and water and they're getting sick, and then we're eating the animals, we're starting to get sick. And so that's how we're all connected. I'm gonna smudge this dress. We're gonna cleanse it. So when you're out wearing this dress, speaking at the United Nations, you'll be blessed and protected, and you'll speak from the heart, connect with the ancestors.
The spirit of water exists in every raindrop, in every stream and puddle, in the veins of trees, and in every tear we shed for joy or grief. Water walkers, defenders of water. We do it for the next generations, for the babies of all species. Keep going. Stay strong.
When I was 8 years old, I was attending a water ceremony in Serpent River First Nation. When I was at the ceremony, I went to the bathroom, and all over the walls, signs that said, not for consumption, don't touch or drink the water, and boil water advisory. I asked my mom, what does all that mean? What's the boil water advisory? And then she told me what all of it meant. There's kids that were my age that did not know at all what it's like to drink clean water from a tap. People living in third world conditions in a rich country where things like that shouldn't be happening. There's a lot of youth becoming activists. We're realizing what kind of future the adults today are giving us for tomorrow.
So I'm excited about Friday. It's the Youth March. I'm excited to see how many youth and young people are going to be there. It's a big event, this climate summit. It's in New York City. And the best part of it is you'll never forget turning 15 because there's so many things happening on that day. There's going to be the huge climate strike, and we're speaking at the United Nations. Let's go there. And that goes right here. There. Adventures of Autumn.
Our children are unable to see obstacles in their path, for they are always looking up to us and never at their feet. When we encounter an obstacle in their way, it is our responsibility to remove it. We are the protectors of our children, and when we fail, the children must learn to protect themselves.
This will be my second time speaking in the United Nations, and I know when I speak in the United Nations, I'm being heard.
Knowing the lineage that she comes from, you know, there was a lot of fighters. There was a lot of warriors. Even on her dad's side of the family, she comes from a line of chiefs. It doesn't surprise me that she is who she is. But it's hard work. Sometimes it can be challenging for her because, you know, she's a kid still. Media exposure, it comes with a price as well, the work. You get treated a different way, and there was a point where we didn't even feel like going out for a while. We just kind of stayed home. We'd only go out if we had to. That was really hard.
I was being bullied because of the jealousy from other kids, because not a lot of kids get to do the stuff I was doing, like meeting the Prime Minister at a young age.
At first, she didn't even tell me, but I started noticing different changes in her.
I came home with a bunch of cuts because they were slamming my face to the snow and sitting. They were trying to suffocate me. And then my face was slammed into the fence, and it makes me really emotional. That was really hard for me.
As she stood in cold and ice, and in heat and rain, around each bend of the lake she thanked the water. At each puddle and stream, she asked the water for help. Soon the people started to join in, and the water started to become clean.
Us kids were having to stand up as leaders. We're advocating for our future. Kids should be in school, and like, even me right now, I should be in school. Actually, act now, not tomorrow, not next year, not next month, today. I'm missing a week of school to speak in the United Nations, to try and tell adults how we're seeing our future, and that the way we're seeing our future is not in a good way. Everything is about money to the adults. You can't eat money. You can't drink oil. One day I will be an ancestor, and I want my descendants to know I use my voice so they can have a future. I've heard of places like Flint, Michigan, 6 nations of the Grand River. All across these lands, we know somewhere where someone can't drink the water. Why so many, and why have they gone without water so long? We can't live in our mother's womb without water. As a fetus, we need that sacred water for development. The sacred significance is that my mother comes from her mother's water, my grandmother comes from her mother's water, and my great-great-grandmother comes from her mother's water. No child should grow up not knowing what clean water is, or never knowing what running water is. Now is the time to warrior up and empower each other to take a stand for our planet. Let's do this for our great-grandchildren. Thank you, Miigwech. I do wish my Auntie Josephine could see what I'm doing right now. She's always taught me to keep on going and never give up. No matter what people say about your work or what you're doing, you know what you want. Pray for the water, because the water doesn't have a voice. You're speaking up for it.
to our mother, whose waters broke on that first day and made song possible. We sing now for you, to you, with you, drumming to your heartbeat, with nothing left to give but our bones and flesh as an offering, so that we too can drink in life as our journey continues for another 1,000,000 years and another 1,000,000 cycles around the sun.
The following program is rated PG.
Bonjour, Wabananongo Kwe and Disnikas. My name is Serene Fox, and I'm from Batchewana First Nation of Anishinaabe near Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. I'm a mother, an activist, and an artist. As a queer Indigenous person, I know what it feels like to live at the intersection of queerness and indigeneity, to be a shapeshifter. It's an identity that's layered, and to be honest, I've always wanted to dive deeper into my own story, my community's stories. It would be an understatement to say that Indigenous people have been through a lot in the last few hundred years. The same can be said for queer people. Today, things are changing, but still, we are searching and uncovering our truth. It goes without saying that being queer and Indigenous comes with its own history, its own teachings, and a lot to unpack. It's been a hard road for many. Since becoming a mother, and now with another on the way, I feel a pull towards needing to better understand this part of who I am, for myself and for future generations. So I'm setting out to connect with First Nation, Métis, and Inuit members of the 2S LGBTQ+ community, from one end of Turtle Island to the other. I want to know more about who our queer ancestors were pre-contact. I want to learn more about the impacts of colonialism on gender and sexual identity in our communities, and how people are working to reclaim what's been taken away, and what we can do to make more space for future generations of queer Indigenous youth. I give you a hug?
So good to see you.
So good to see you. My journey begins at the home of the Henry family in Kettle and Stony Point First Nation, Ontario. I've known Chief Jason Henry, his wife Cynthia, and their daughter Benesi for quite some time now.
No projects on the go, Cynthia? So clean in the sewing room.
Then there's my room.
Going into 11th grade?
Mm-hmm. Almost driving. Baby me. Here's me and my mom at a powwow. This one is the one that my grandpa did, and then that's the one that I got when I finished my berry fast. Me and all of my lodge family at a buffalo dance gathering. Right now I'm the senior Miss Kettle and Stony Point, so this is the crown that I wear. Miss Kettle and Stony Point Senior.
Benesi is at the early stages of her coming out journey. She recently came out to her parents and a few friends. Over the course of the next few months, I will be following Benesi as she moves forward in her coming out journey.
Are you out right now? What is it? What is your... What's your situation?
I'm out-ish.
Out-ish. What does out-ish mean?
I'm out to one of my grandparents, and the three I'm not. But I'm not private about it, I'm not secretive about it, other than those three grandparents. I really care about what they think about me. So that makes it more difficult.
Do you think that it'll change the way they feel?
For my grandma, possibly. But she's a 60 scoop survivor. Her mom was in residential schools, right? So there's a lot of intergenerational trauma, really just hardcore issues there that I know aren't really about me, but still hearing them hurts.
But it's because her homophobia is founded in
like some fundamental Christian beliefs and nothing but that, right?
Yeah.
It's not, post-residential school kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? So
When you think about coming out to her, you really think in your heart of hearts that she would stop loving you?
No. I think that she'll like always love me, but
she's gonna say hurtful things.
she's gonna say hurtful things.
That's her trauma.
Yeah.
She says hurtful
She
things.
says a lot of hurtful things.
You think?
Oh,
Yeah.
we know.
Yes.
I was waiting for it.
Oh, we know.
Yeah. You just know.
Yeah.
What is it like to hear your parents talk about your queerness?
I think it's really crazy, like, to like, actually hear it.
Yeah.
Like, coming from like being in a place before where I was like, yeah, that's never gonna happen. I'm just never ever gonna come out. It's just gonna hide for the rest of my life. To sitting there and hearing that. I remember when I first came out, I was talking to my auntie, and I was like, you know, two big fears: coming out to my grandparents and going back to the lodge. I was like, because the same thing with my grandparents about loving them so much and caring about what they think about me is the same feelings that I've associated with the lodge.
The Grand Chief wasn't just the Grand Chief to you, he was your grandfather,
Yes,
right?
he was. He was my day-day.
Your day-day.
Yeah. He was super kind and like always really loving. That was one of my concerns actually when I was thinking about coming out, was seeing him, and I was unsure about coming out to him. And then he passed away. I was a little bit remorseful that I didn't get to like be myself for him, you know? Like I felt like I was hiding something from him. Like if anybody knew, it was him. So it was like a moment of like, I should have just been myself fully.
Before we go any further, I think it's important to explain the meaning behind the term Two-Spirit. It is used by many Indigenous communities to describe someone who has both masculine and feminine spirits. Many, but not all, Indigenous people identify as 2S. The term is rooted in sexual and gender identity pre-contact.
You know, there's histories of people who've traveled around the globe, Two-Spirit people, before Christopher Columbus. You know, there's these beautiful stories that give power, give love, and give courage to what is, I think, a really beautiful and sacred thing.
I've been doing a bit more research on the Blackfoot history. Apparently there was a two-spirited society, and we played quite an important role in the Sundance.
All of these clues we found in the language and through oral histories indicate what queer Indigenous people have always known, which is that we've always been here.
Being Two-Spirit is being sacred, and it's understanding that you're a servant of servants. You're really trying to help others who are trying to help themselves in some ways.
There were specific roles, and I think that that's important to understand.
Without the oppressive structures that existed, there's actually a far different relationship that the LGBTQ people, Two-Spirit people within Indigenous cultures played.
Happy birthday. Thank you. It is my birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you.
This morning, I'm back at the Henry household in Kettle and Stony Point. In a few days, me and Benesi will be attending the Rama powwow. For the first time ever, Benesi is planning to not wear a skirt during the powwow grand entry. This may seem insignificant to those who aren't familiar with the practices and protocols of powwow culture, but for Benesi, who was raised a celebrated powwow royalty, and for her family, this is a huge step.
Can I ask you about the powwow? Because we're gonna walk a really thin line this weekend. Because you're not out.
Yeah. I'm not that concerned about all the people that are gonna be there. I think that they kind of all know, and if they don't, they're gonna know sooner or later, you know, because they're probably gonna want to watch this. Yeah. Especially if one of their youth is in it, then people are going to be interested in what's happening. People are used to me talking in public and speaking up for things that are really important to me, so I don't think it'll be a shock for people if I am doing what's going to make me happy.
Yeah. Benesi is taking me to her old high school. As a closeted kid at the time, she experienced some very difficult moments here.
There it is, Hillside School. All right, ready? Hillside, huh?
I had this cubby.
You've outgrown it?
I've outgrown it a little. This is the grade 8 class right here.
Okay.
I was sitting here, we had like an iPad cubby, right? Like you get an hour on there or something to do different projects and you can change the lock screen. So they changed the lock screen to like, you know, there's only 2 genders, like, you know, being gay is wrong, like stop being a like, you know, all of these different things are on these iPads and it's so messed up, right? Like our teacher's mad, but he's not like, he's been more mad about other things. And that was like maybe a couple days later, we're back in the classroom and we're still talking about it. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna teach next year. I don't know how I'm gonna hang out with those other gay kids. They're just too weird for me. And like, that's the teacher. Like, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, kind of like spiraling inwards, like, holy shit. Like, I can never come out. Like, if this is my community, if this is supposed to be my teacher, who I looked up to before then, you know, like I really thought he was a great teacher until that moment. I was like, if that's who I look up to, how am I supposed to be myself?
Talk to your friends? Other people in your class?
Well, like most of them were all a part of it, you know? So this is the Ojibwe class. So I took Ojibwe here, and the trans kid, he took Ojibwe here. So this is where the teacher split the class in half, divided it, girls and boys. Boys go stand over there, girls go stand over here. And of course, he was like, well, I'm a boy, so he went and stood with the guys. And she goes, you were born a girl, God made you a girl, now go stand with the girls. Like, I'm really upset that that happened in the first place, but that happened here in the place where we're trying to reclaim what was taken from us, you know? That's what she did here. Like, creating that association with the language for him is really, really, really messed up, you know?
Teacher still teaches here?
She doesn't teach here anymore.
Why do you think it's an elder on our own territory that feels like this?
It's it's residential schools, all because of trying to colonize us, you know?
Okay, goodbye room. Goodbye trauma here. Only good things will happen here now.
Only good things are happening there now.
The water is just spectacular today, my goodness. Bright, bright blue. Oh yeah, there she is. There's your kettle.
Yep, there it is.
Benassi and I decide to drive out to the Kettle Point Formation to recreate an old photo of Benassi.
All right.
Yeah, this is the one. It looks so much smaller now.
There you are. Wow, I never noticed that giant cross they put there.
It's new.
On our way out, we notice a very large cross that was recently erected nearby. Another sign that the impacts of colonialism are still alive and well, right here in Benassi's community.
You know, I have to say, the impact of residential schools and Colonial Project on queerness is huge. I did a lot of research about first contact when two-spiritedness was there and very prevalent. The first conquistadors and the first explorers were like, oh my God.
Gender and sexuality were like the first things that, or among the first things that were attacked during colonization.
Things like putting two-spirited people to the dogs was common. So from the very beginning, two-spiritedness was eliminated. It was pushed underground. Right away, we learned very quickly that we couldn't be who we were.
And so two-spirit people and contact itself is a narrative all by itself. They brought the closet here. They showed people how to hide themselves. They showed and forced people to do those things at the cost often of sometimes their lives, but especially their dignity.
And then that continued through residential schools. It was like an extension.
I, have heard many elders tell me, their stories of being in residential schools, a lot of survivors, and a lot of the narratives that you will hear repeated are things like, oh, they separated me from my brothers and sisters. They cut my hair. They forced me to wear these things. And part of that is part of the trauma. And it's so jarring because that is, the colonizer imposing gender expectations, gender norms on people, gender binaries. And the reason why that was so traumatic is because that was not the norm prior to those moments and to those really violent, forcible impositions.
It's not an accident that so many of us are disconnected. It's part of the legacy of colonization. The impact of forced assimilation and the harm that has been done because of, the religious institutions around queerness.
Colonization very explicitly, very forcibly attacked gender as part of the project. And I think that it's why conversations about queerness are inextricable from conversations about indigeneity and colonization in this place.
To this day, it's still playing out. There are many individuals who are homophobic. And that is a direct result of the colonial project and residential schools.
The next stop on my journey is in Winnipeg, Manitoba, to meet with Charlotte Nolan, a 71-year-old trans woman and 60 Scoop survivor who understands the impacts of colonization all too well.
People talk about birthdays. I've got 3. The day I was born, the day I had my surgery, and the day I changed my name.
From the age of 7, as a little kid growing up in the 1950s, Charlotte knew she wasn't quite like the other kids. Growing up, coming out as a trans woman felt basically impossible.
Society was quite racist at that time, quite homophobic, and quite transphobic. You knew that if you came out, you'd be hurt. People believed that we did not belong, that we should not be around. If we would have come on today, we could have been beaten for that, There was a lot of violence attached to being who we are. I had no real education. I had dropped out of school. I had been living on the streets and incarcerated a few times. That led to addictions, that led to street work, and a lot of violence attached to it. Every time that you'd go out on a date, you'd wonder whether it'd be your last one or not. The world wasn't ready for us back then, and I'm glad that we've moved forward. We haven't reached that full potential of who we are, but we've made such huge steps forward.
How's your morning?
Good. I've been up since 5.
Is that what time you normally get up?
Yeah.
Today, Charlotte and her friend Chantal are headed out to a piece of land that will be used for traditional ceremony for the Two-Spirited community. In the past, Charlotte and other members of the 2S community have been turned away from sacred and traditional ceremony because of how they identify. So this project is deeply important to all of them.
This land is about an hour away from Winnipeg. Having a land base gives you the opportunity to do so much programming that isn't available to our young people, When I stop and think of how the government tried to destroy all of us Indigenous peoples, and here we are, some 200 years later, we're not only still here, but we're flourishing. It gives me hope for the future for our young people.
Hey, Saray.
Tansy,
How are
bonjour.
you?
Welcome.
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful.
This is the land.
This is the land.
The end.
That's it, let's go. So,
Would you take me on a tour of the land?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Here we have raspberry canes, the Saskatoon bushes, crab apples, horsetail. If you have arthritis, that takes away a lot of that pain, and it grows here everywhere. Many of our relatives have been turned away from other sun dances, and they haven't been made welcome. And we felt that we needed to do this. Our two-spirit children, they need a place to come to, and that's what the land's going to be for. We're going to do away with these patriarchal rules that people have put in place. There will be those that will disagree with the way we do our ceremonies, because at our Sundance, people will wear what they're comfortable wearing, whether it's a skirt or skirt, you know. People won't be segregated into male, female. We'll do it the way we are supposed to do it.
So good. How are you?
God, you look amazing.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This is amazing.
Right? Girls down in panic always listen together.
I'm in Vancouver to meet with Necklumcumuk drag queen Ilona Verley. Ilona was a contestant on Canada's Drag Race. Since her appearance on the show, she's performed for audiences all over Canada and even appeared in Vogue. You know, you were sort of spiraled into the mainstream because you were on Drag Race.
Little Drag Race moment.
So how did that happen? What was that journey?
You know, I found drag through Drag Race, and that to me was kind of like the gateway to discovering myself as a trans person, a two-spirit person, was finding my feminine energy and accepting it, you know? And so I got really, really into drag and like just fell so in love with it. I got to the point where I would come home at the end of the night and take my makeup off and be sad. And I was like, why don't you take this off? You know, and that was before I knew like how to say I'm trans. And that sadness was coming from like feeling like it was just this thing I'm taking off. Whereas like my trans identity isn't just a costume. And I found that through drag, and it's kind of at the point now where like my drag and my trans identity is just like so intertwined that I'm just like, I'm just me.
How does your indigeneity play into that? Like, how is that intersecting with all of this?
You know, for me, I met my drag aunt Jaylene Time when I started doing drag in nightlife, and she is an incredible two-spirit trans woman. And seeing her be so authentically herself had always inspired me, and I didn't necessarily know at the times, like, why is she so magnetizing to me, you know? And it's because I'm parallel to her in our journeys with our two-spiritness, our transness. And getting on Drag Race and having that moment of being like, okay, you're gonna be on TV, I was like, okay, I don't wanna waste this platform just going and getting fame for myself and my art and whatever. I was like, this has to be bigger than me, you know? And it took me so long to end up at that place where I could be like, oh, I am trans, or I am two-spirit, you know, and own my indigeneity and be proud of it. You know, I've lived it my entire life, but to be proud of it and not feel like I had to white pass, I was like, that's what I want to inspire going on this show. Because I grew up and never had no one to look up to on TV like me. There was no queer natives on TV. That wasn't a thing, you know? And so I went to school and I did the white passing thing because I thought that's what I had to do, you know? And I lost countless years of experiences that could have shaped me into myself quicker if I had followed my background instead of hiding from it, you know?
I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure that you were the first person ever to show up in full regalia on Drag Race.
It was just a beautiful representation to me of femme indigeneity and queerness. There's a lot of people who were like pissed about it. You're like, you're sexualizing our culture. How dare you be in drag and do that? And I was like, okay, well, if you want to sexualize me in makeup and a wig, that's your colonial mindset that you're giving into. It's not sexual for me, you know? That's not what it was. It was a celebration of feminist indigeneity and queerness. that look was featured in Vogue, which was like so cool. You know, I never thought I would ever end up in Vogue, ever. Like,
You want to do this?
yes! Should we cheers?
Yeah, let's cheers it.
Cheers.
All right.
Hello, y'all. Are you ready to take a trip into my head? I've tried to make my apartment look like how I feel. Everything in my house has got to be powder blue or it's got to go. This is my closet. Yeah, so my kitchen is very much not a kitchen. I don't really cook or do anything like that. So I store my fabric here. For the longest time, I had shoes in my fridge and shoes in the oven thing. But now I put the shoes up here on display. This is a little piece of art that my mom leather burned. It's a male and female figure, and it has my Indigenous name Niquintish on it, which means he, she believes it to be, which kind of really connects to my two-spiritedness and my duality. And my mom made this for me years ago when I was given my name, and it's really special to me, and I love my mom a lot. Yeah, I'm so thankful for my mom. She's like my biggest supporter. You know, I hear a lot of stories from my other friends who are queer and Indigenous, and they don't receive the same support. And it breaks my heart because I'm so lucky to have had my mom, and it just hurts me to know that my friends and other people don't get that same love that my mom has given me. It's not always like that, especially in the intersectionality of being queer and Indigenous. Yeah, I feel like my whole life I was always trying to find my people where I felt accepted. And I didn't realize that they were already there in my life. All I needed was a new, different perspective on my own situation and the people around me. And that came with growing up and finding myself and claiming my indigeneity and my queerness and my transness and just feeling free.
Today, Benacy and I are at the Rama powwow, where for the first time, she will be wearing pants instead of a skirt. This is an act that even today requires a lot of courage on Benacy's part.
So my little girl is about to go in for Tiny Tots, first Tiny Tots of the day.
So exciting.
Do you remember that experience?
I do. I remember Tiny Tots.
And what is your relationship with dancing like now?
It's a little bit different. I think that I'm like trying to find where I fit in the powwow circle.
Yeah.
You know, like not trying to pretend to be anything or anybody else.
Yeah.
Just like working on being me fully, even in powwow circle or in ceremonies.
Okay. Well, maybe watching Mamatasin or getting in there, even if we run, we'll be able to catch it.
Will.
It might remind you of that original feeling.
Let.
All right. Are you good to run with us, a little crew? Okay, let's do it. We'll cut through here.
I identify as Two-Spirit, and I go by they, her pronouns. It hasn't been too struggling just because I'm surrounded by people that are more accepting with my sexuality, my gender.
And I was taught in the Northern Arctic that the kids chose their gender when they felt that they were ready. So there was actually what they would call today trans folks way before contact.
Sometimes you have to walk away from relationships because they're so destructive of who you are. I did have to walk away from my parents at some point, and waited for that relationship to settle.
I just don't think there was pressure on being a gender, because you look at like the residential schools and, you know, the segregation of like women and men and boys and girls, and, you know, so much of that like forced identification. It was carceral, it was abusive, it was demeaning.
How do you feel?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Were you nervous coming here?
I was like the whole car ride and like the night before.
Yeah.
But I think once I got out there, it's different. But like the fact that I was in pants and wasn't wearing a skirt and like a big flowy dress that I had to wear.
So does it change the way your crown feels?
A little bit. Yeah. I feel like it looks more like queer representation than if I was just trying to wear what everybody else was, you know?
You do feel like royalty.
Yeah.
Queer royalty.
Yep.
It's not just something small.
Yeah.
It's the same story as when you cut your hair to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like these tiny moments that you're describing coming in.
Yeah.
Coming into your own identity.
Mm-hmm. It feels really good to present myself how I want to be seen. It's a moment of relief for me to be able to walk how I want to walk and to not be ashamed of how I want to look and how I want to act and dress.
Next on my journey, I'm headed to Edmonton to meet with Beanie John and her mother, Rosa.
Danse Tawao. Hello and welcome. My name is Beanie John. I'm Plains Cree and Taino from Kihiwan, Alberta. I'm an Indigiqueer, two-spirit hoop dancer and grass dancer.
From a very young age, Beanie knew she was special, and so did her mother.
She wanted to dance grass. She was only 10 years old. And we were like, oh my goodness, you know, how are we going to deal with this? So my husband says, you got to go and talk to the men from the Grass Dance Society. And she went up to them and she said, I want to be a grass dancer. And almost every single one of them said the same thing, do what's in your heart. I see it in you. I see it in you, some would say.
Despite being accepted by many community members, Beanie still faces pushback. In the summer of 2022, one of Canada's largest powwows released rules indicating that dancers must be of the, quote, correct gender for each dancing category. This would mean that Beanie would not be allowed to dance grass dance.
I was going through, I was like, okay, yeah, standard rules, blah, 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 blah. Wait, what is this? And I was like, wait, you have to dance your gender?
To have somebody just say that, it just hit me at home so much.
Thanks to Beanie and Rosa's advocacy efforts, these powwow rules were quickly changed.
I just want to go and take part and be me and be complete at my ceremony, at home. And I think we're getting that. I think we're getting that because all across Turtle Island, Two-Spirit people had enough. Like, they're like, we're here, we're not going anywhere, we've always been here, it's just colonization. You know, they tried. They really, really tried. You can't tear us down. Like, you know, we're too solid and we're just too Indigenous, you know?
The next stop on my journey is in Iqaluit, Nunavut, to speak with Joshua Kamanapik. He is fiercely connected to his culture and is a vocal advocate for 2S LGBTQI+ Inuit.
My name is Josh Kamalapik. I'm from Iqaluit, Nunavut. I work in conservation and I live with my partner Daniel and our wonderful little cat. Being LGBTQI+, I think that in Iqaluit, like, it's definitely becoming a lot more like the rest of Canada, but I don't think that's necessarily the case with other communities.
Today, Joshua has organized a discussion with members of the 2S LGBTQI+ community and its allies.
This talk that I wanted to bring forward isn't to bash people or demonize anybody. It's to bring some other perspectives because I feel like the vision for the future of Nunavut and our society is to be an inclusive one.
I feel like we know that some of the smaller communities are not as big or open-minded as like Iqaluit, and so like it's still not super safe all the time for queer people to, you know, to make the news in positive ways.
For people to, you know, conflate Christian culture with Inuit culture is really upsetting, because that's how strongly colonized even our leaders are. Our leaders who fought for Nunavut to be created, who fight for Inuit rights, still have internalized so many of the things, but because it's been happening for so long now, they have convinced themselves that it's our culture when it's not.
There's been times when me and Daniel will be sitting at a restaurant, and one time there was this like really young guy that came from another community, and he just came up and talked to us, and he was like, wow, I've never met other gay people before. It's really nice to meet you, and that was so cool. My responsibility lies in visibility, showing that like you can be a queer Inuk and still be loved by people. Being more welcoming to LGBTQ Inuit in our communities will just help us move forward to create a better future, because I think that we're some pretty cool, awesome people, and it would suck not to have us. Yep. Yeah.
We should do fireworks this year. 16th birthday.
Your birthday.
Can I light them?
Oh my gosh. You are the most accident-prone kid ever.
Approximately a month has gone by since I last saw Benesi, and today I'm joining her in celebrating her 16th birthday, along with her parents and Grandma Sue. Benesi came out to her Grandma Sue very recently, and as expected, things went well. She has yet to come out to her other 3 grandparents.
Okay, we made it.
So why was it important, or why did you want us to come hang out here?
I thought it would be a good idea, you know, because I do talk about my grandparents a lot, to like actually see it. I decided, you know, I should probably tell some of my grandparents, and I decided that my Grandma Sue would be the easiest to tell. I ended up getting her to come over.
I could tell that she was, you know, struggling. So I asked her to come sit with me, honey, and I told her, you know, it's okay.
I was like, so I'm in a documentary, and it's about me being gay. And then I cried, and then Grandma Sue cried. And then she told me how much she loved me and how it didn't change anything.
What is the most important thing you want, that you want the world to see about this particular relationship with your grandma?
I love you, babe.
I think like the fact that, you know, just like, just so much love. I didn't think I was ever gonna come out to any of my grandparents. So when I finally did, and it was like met with love and kindness and just like full acceptance, it was amazing. It was.
I'll always be there for her no matter what. I mean, she knows. I'd be there in a heartbeat no matter what.
She's my baby, so it's like I just feel for her. But I'm proud of her. Like, this is an amazing first couple steps she's making, and they're huge. They're big, big steps. They're not easy.
I know there's some more people you have to talk to about this, and we're trying to encourage her to do it in person and to kind of grab the bull by the horns.
I think it's important for all of us to know that there was this moment where this weekend was like building up to this thing, and we would get to see you in that space with your grandma bear. And maybe tell us why you made a new plan, and why this plan and what you want to do next is the way you want your story to be told right now.
I changed my mind because I want it to be in a safe space and it to be a happy thing. And coming out to her isn't a happy thing for her.
Is it a happy thing for you?
It's a happy thing for me.
I just think you're going to be an amazing role model for all the other 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds going to be watching this. You know, they're going to look up to you. They're going to be like, okay, maybe what I have in my head isn't as scary, and I'm able to like push through. Can we celebrate?
Yeah.
So should we eat cake?
Let's celebrate.
Benesi's gay! Benesi's gay! Okay. Did you have another one? Benesi's gay! Okay. 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 Benesi's gay! Okay.
Oh. I think the blue is a dud. What do you want, some sprinkles too?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
Troubles coming on the way, but you can still walk them through. That's all we do. The world is waiting for you.
The end of my journey brings me back to where it all started, in Kettle and Stony Point First Nation. Over the course of our time together, Benesi has made a lot of progress in her coming out journey.
Being myself fully has been scary. I came out to one of my aunties, and that was a really big step for me, like a huge step for me. And I was met with nothing but support and like acceptance and love. So like when I experienced that, my perception changed. My idea of what I thought it was going to be changed. Saying that to people who I like really was concerned about, it got way easier. Typically, our women don't put bells on and breechcloths and you know, and cuffs, and dance like a grass dancer in front of the whole lodge, in front of my grandpa, in front of all my aunties. I did that, and I felt so good. I felt authentic and like real. I didn't feel like I was pretending anymore. And all of my aunties told me it was so beautiful to watch. So many people told me that it was beautiful. And that it didn't feel out of place. It felt like it belonged. So like I want safe space, and I want people to feel that they can be who they are authentically from day one, especially in our lodges, in our ceremonies, and in our school systems. I think that I'm gonna help make that space. That's what I want to do.
It's so important that we remember that not all of our experiences are the same, and that our individual journeys are ever changing. We are all on our own unique path. We've been here from the beginning. We've fought hard to survive all they've thrown at us. And we will keep fighting to reclaim our identities, all while preserving our culture. In connection with each other, with our community, I'm always reminded that we are shapeshifters. We are grounded in resistance and survival, transformation. I'm reminded of our songs, our dances, our teachings, our vital roles and responsibilities. We still have a long way to go, but if we stand together, the future is bright. The future is strong. The future, my relatives, is Indigiqueer.
Also known as Newfoundland, which is the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk peoples. As a non-Indigenous person, I respectfully acknowledge the people who came before me, the people who are here now, and the people who will come after me. I also want to recognize the fact that I work, learn, play, and live on stolen Indigenous land. I am committed to deepening my understanding of the history of the land in which I live and of the Indigenous communities who have and continue to reside here. I strive to work to create supportive relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people and to do my part in achieving reconciliation. Now, I would like to welcome Joel Cardinal, who will be hosting today's session.
Thank you, Natalie, for offering today's land acknowledgement. It's great to be here live on Facebook and YouTube for this DWF Live as part of Secret Path Week. My name is Joel Cardinal, and I am the manager of reconciliations with the Gordani Chani-Wenjack Fund. Today, I am hosting this DWF Live from my home community of Sad Lake Cree Nation in Alberta, along with my co-host Monty. Monty, say hi. We are so excited for today's session with Buffy Sainte-Marie. Let me start by sharing a bit about the Gordani and Chani-Wenjack Fund. Inspired by Chani's story and Gore's call to build a better Canada, the Gordani and Chani-Wenjack Fund aims to build cultural understanding and create a path toward reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. This week, from October 17th to 22nd, is Secret Path Week. October 17th and 22nd respectfully mark the dates that Gord and Chani joined the spirit world. For us, this isn't a sad week. It's a week where we remember the important things they did, and we honor them by answering Gordani's call to do something to move reconciliation forward. More information about Secret Path Week can be found at secretpathweek.ca. It's great to see everyone here with us today. Please continue to use the chat, let us know where you're joining in from, and share any thoughts and questions that come up during today's DWF Live. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing the legendary Buffy Sainte-Marie. Buffy Sainte-Marie, a cultural and musical icon, has left an enduring impact over her 6-decade career. Her powerful voice and songwriting have inspired generations of musicians, activists, and educators. Breaking free from past norms and industry constraints, she debuted with the groundbreaking album It's My Way in 1964. As a self-taught musician from childhood, Buffy's inventive guitar tuning shaped her unique sound and influenced future artists. With degrees in Oriental philosophy and education, she gained recognition in New York's Greenwich Village coffee houses before soaring to international fame. An innovator in digital art and electronic music in the late 60s and 70s, Buffy holds 15 honorary degrees, including a PhD in fine art. Her vast catalog of songs like Universal Soldier and her advocacy for education and Indigenous rights continue to inspire resilience amid challenges. In addition to Still This Love Goes On, Buffy has offered 2 other children's books, Hey Little Rockabye, about pet adoption, and a chapter book called Topway and the Magic Hat, released in English and in Cree. Now it's time for Buffy to join us. Hi, Buffy.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Joel.
Great. Nice to have you on our DWF Live session. I will pass it over to you to introduce yourself in the way that you would like.
My name is Buffy Sainte-Marie. I was raised in Maine and Massachusetts, across the border in the US. And I've always been able to write songs. When I grew up, I met the Pie Pot family and they adopted me. So I got a brand new family. So I've been very lucky. I've had 2 families in my life and I love them both. And I'm here today to talk to you about a song that I wrote called Still This Love. And guess what? Somebody made it into a book.
Great. And we will get the video playing.
Sat beside a beaver dam and watched the winter grow. Ice was hard with little tracks appearing on the snow. Fog is in the valley now and all the geese have gone. Across the moon I saw them go, and still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on. Once I saw the summer flowers turn the fields to sun. Up and down a mountainside I watched the summer run. Now the fields are muffled in white and snow's on the dawn. Morning comes on shivering wings, and still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on. In every dream, I can smell the sweet grass burning. In my heart, I can hear the drum and hear the singers soaring and see the jingle dancers. And still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on. Fancy dancer come up north to see some friends of his. Fell in love in a powwow town, and you know how that is. Beaded girls and painted ponies turn your life around. Now you're singing Versace, on and on, on and on and on and on. And in every dream, I can smell the sweet grass burning. And in my heart, always hear the drum and hear the singers soaring and see the jingle dancers. And still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on.
That's the song.
Sorry about that. Just realized I was muted there. That was great, Buffy. Thank you for that, for sharing that video with us so that we can share with everyone who is watching today. Just wanted to have a quick little chat about your book. And I think my first question is about the illustrations that are all in there, and if you could share how those came about.
Oh, it was so interesting. I had written another song that we turned into a book, and it's about pet adoption, and it's called Hey Little Rockabye. And the book company that made the book Hey Little Rockabye, they asked if I had some other songs that might be good for children's books. And I showed them several, and they really liked Still This Love Goes On. And I liked it too. And when I would sing it in concert, especially people who had grown up in the countryside, or maybe they lived in the city, but they visited the countryside and, you know, the land, and of course the reserves. That's what I was thinking. So the book company were very wonderful. We wanted to have pictures, and I'm an artist too, but they had an artist, and her name is Julie Flett. Julie Flett. And she's done beautiful, beautiful illustrations and a whole lot of books. You should see some of her other books too. She's wonderful.
Great. And I've seen sweetgrass referenced at least once or twice in the book. And I know I'm very familiar with sweetgrass, but I'm wondering if you could just explain a little about that for those who don't know.
Oh, I think everybody knows, but maybe you don't. Well, you know, in the book, Julie Flett, the artist, the line that I'm singing is, and you can smell the sweetgrass burning, right? How do you make a picture of the smell of sweetgrass burning? Well, Julie Flett, the way she illustrated, she made it very transparent, like white, almost like smoke, like you can see through it. But the smell of sweetgrass, you know, sweetgrass is something that it grows in Saskatchewan. It doesn't grow everywhere, but lots of sweetgrass in Saskatchewan. It grows kind of down in the coulee. And my nephew Rodney especially used to go down and pick sweetgrass, and then he'd bring it home, and everybody would make braids, sweetgrass braids. And if you have a braid of woven sweetgrass, you can keep it with you. And my dad always told me, you should, whenever you travel, it's good to bring sweetgrass. And it's not like it's some kind of magic spell. No, it's not like that. It's a cultural thing where just that fragrance just connects you again deep in your heart to all the other people who see that beautiful land and who come from that wonderful culture. So it's kind of a connecting thing, sweetgrass. And it's something that we always use, like if you're going to move to a new house, Or if you're going to use a teepee or a wigwam or some other lodge, you smudge at first, or you might smudge with sweetgrass when you're just with your friends, and it just is wonderful. Just you don't have to have any magic words. It's very natural. It's very human, and you share the fragrance of the sweetgrass, and you bathe yourself. You pretend like it's water. You bathe yourself in the smoke, and you say your prayer, and you listen to the other people, and somehow it just kind of connects us. So I think I love the way that Julie Flett illustrated it. You can hardly see it, just like the sweetgrass, the aroma, the smell of sweetgrass is not a loud smell. It's gentle and loving and connect and very, very beautiful.
Great for that, Buffy. I know in my home community here in Treaty 6 territory, sweetgrass does grow, and I was raised harvesting that with my parents growing up, and I actually have a sweetgrass here just to show everyone. I start my day by grounding myself, by smudging myself and Monty as well, because he's part of the family. And it's just a great way to ground and start your day. And especially if you're going to have a tough day or difficult day, it's really important to ensure that you're approaching it in the best way possible. I have another question for you. It's in regards to the song itself that you wrote. What does it mean to you?
Almost the same thing as sweetgrass. I think that's why I put the words about sweetgrass in the song. I wrote the song. I was actually in Treaty 6 and it was wintertime, and I was staying in a little cabin, and it was way out in the middle of nowhere. So it's very beautiful, the snow, and now and then you'd see some animals, or it's just such a wonderful feeling. So I travel a lot. I travel around all kinds of foreign countries, far places, and it makes me lonesome. I get lonesome for the people that I love and the things that we do, and that sweetgrass fragrance when you first wake up in the morning because somebody's burning, somebody's saying a prayer and burning a little sweetgrass for the morning. And the song just kind of popped into my head. I don't know how or why that happens, but like sometimes if you go to bed at night, you don't know if you're going to have a dream or what your dream's going to be about. Songs are like that for me. All of a sudden, unexpectedly, I'll have a thought or a longing for something, and I'll kind of hear a song in my head, and the words will start to come to me. But it's very playful. It's not a lot of work. It's very playful, and maybe some of the children who are here with us today, maybe they have that going on. And it kind of bothers me sometimes that as a child, grown-ups don't know how wonderful your dreams are until you turn them into something, but sometimes you can't do that until you're a grown-up. So as a child, I hope with this song, I hope that it kind of reminds you of things either in your life or in your dreams, or maybe somebody you visited. But it's a song where you're longing for something, but you're still happy because you know that when you see these people again, it's going to be so nice. And that the reserve, or if you're out on the land, it just inspires you with something that's very real, very natural, not the same as television, and not the same as people yelling about money and people angry with each other. There are sweet, gentle, peaceful places inside each of us. And sometimes, if you're an artist, if you make pictures, or if you're a dancer, if you write songs, sometimes you can get these feelings just right, and then you can give them to other people who can use them in their day too. It's really wonderful, but it's very, very much like play, and you all know how to do that. But listen to your play. Listen to what's going on there. You might hear some songs.
Thank you, Buffy. I know for you, it sounds like they just come to you and very easy, but we all know you're incredibly gifted. And so we're very excited to bring on our students and a little bit later in this session. But I have another question for you, because this book that you wrote, the song that you wrote, some people have referred to it as a love letter to Indigenous communities. And wondering if you can tell us what that means to you.
Oh, I have just had everybody has troubles in their life, and sometimes it's hard. I live in a suitcase, I travel all the time, I'm not home enough. You miss airplanes, it's stressful.
That come up during
But
today's DWF
when
Live.
you're there,
Today,
when you're in your community and with your friends, it all becomes worth it. And some songs and music and just traditional things, you don't have to know a whole lot, but just being there, there's something wonderful. It's not just the beadwork, it is our traditions from long ago, but it's also just being there right now, just being in your dream, if that's all you are, and if you're in bed, you're almost asleep, and you listen to that dream, and you connect with the reality that your feeling represents. Artists have an easy time with this, and I think children sometimes have an easy time with it. I think children are very artistic, more than many of their parents realize. And so I want to say to all the teachers and all the parents who are here today, it's good if you can have some instruments around the house. Don't get some precious guitar that you put on the wall and nobody can touch. No, get things that you can bang around and treat them like toys. Have fun with them. Little drums, little xylophones, or a little electric keyboard, or little ukuleles and cheap guitars. They're so wonderful, and you don't need lessons. No, it comes natural. You pick them up and you treat them like toys, and you love them, and you do it in fun. And when you're done, you put it down and you go do something else. And there is a way for, if you want to become a certain kind of professional musician, you might want to take lessons. But there was music before there was ever lessons. And a lot of children can make music. They can make music even without any lessons. And those songs are in your heart, in your life, and in your head. So if you get a little bit of courage and you start writing them down, or remembering them, or recording them, well, you might find out that you too, as a child, are a songwriter. I was.
great advice, Buffy, to children and youth to get engaged with music. I know I spent the weekend with my nephews, and my nephews in 7th grade just started learning to play the trumpet last month. And so I got to hear him play, and I'll wait a couple more months to listen to it again, as he's very much new to the whole learning how to play the trumpet. So I think right now what we're going to do is we're going to transition over into story time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have our support team in the background bring up the book for Buffy, and Buffy is going to read us her book, Still This Love Goes On.
There's, before we do that, Joe, there's one word in the song. It says, hear the singers soaring. And soaring is what birds do. A bird who really flies high, we say he's soaring. And so when I say hear the singers soaring, when you hear traditional music, when you hear powwow, or those voices, to me they're like, it's just like birds just soaring. So that's why I use that word. That is kind of an unusual way to use that word, but that's what your imagination does.
Great, thank you for that.
Oh, there it is. Hey, that's the cover of the book. It says, Still This Love Goes On. And if you look up high, you can see there's my name, Buffy Sainte-Marie, and also Julie Flett. And she's the person who made the pictures, and I made the words. Let's get into it. Let's see. Oh, there's our first page. Okay, I'm going to read it for you. Sat beside a beaver dam and watched the winter grow. Ice was hard, with little tracks appearing on the snow. Fog is in the valley now, and all the geese have gone. Across the moon I saw them go, and still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on. Once I saw the summer flowers turn the fields to sun. Up and down the mountainside, I watch the summer run. Now the fields are muffled in white, and snow is on the dawn. Morning comes on shivering wings, and still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on. In every dream, I can smell the sweetgrass burning. See, do you see the sweetgrass right there? See what Julie Flett did? Do you see the white sweetgrass? It's not green like sweetgrass really looks. It looks different. It looks like dream sweetgrass, almost like the fragrance, like the smell of the sweetgrass. Okay, now back to the story. In every dream, I can smell the sweetgrass burning. And in my heart,
bring
I
on
can
our
hear the
students in a little.
and hear the singers soaring and see the jingle dancers. And still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on. Fancy then come up north to see some friends of his. Fell in love in a powwow town. And you know how that is. Beaded girls and painted ponies turn your life around. And now you're singing, Gisagihitin. That means I love you. Gisagihitin, ha ha ha. On and on. And on and on and on and on and in every dream, I can smell the sweetgrass burning. And in my heart, always hear the drum and hear the singers soaring and see the jingle dancers. And still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on. Oh, something else. You know, I don't read music, but many people do. Not everybody reads music. Many people just play naturally by ear, like me and lots of famous musicians, but other people, they learn music by a different way. They learn not by ear, but more by eye and by reading. And so even though I don't read music myself, my guitar player helped me and the book company helped me to get it written down as music so that your music teachers can learn it the way they usually do. It's the same thing. Still this love goes on. You can see there are musical notes, and then underneath the line of musical notes, there's a line of the story. And I think your music teachers might be able to help you with that. And that's our story, and that's our book. Still this love goes on and on.
That is great, Buffy. Thank you for reading that to all of the people watching the live stream today. And I'm sure all of the students that we're about to introduce are feeling pretty special that they got to have Buffy Sainte-Marie read one of her books to them. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with, before we start with the questions, let me start by introducing the schools. So we have several schools that we are working with as legacy schools who are joining us, and they will be on camera today. And what I'm wondering if we can do is if we can actually get the teacher for each of the classes to unmute and to introduce your class, maybe say your school name, the grade of the class, and where in Canada you are located. So I'm going to start with, do we have Miss Dryber?
Hi there.
Great.
We are here from École Massey in Regina, Saskatchewan on Treaty 4 land.
Great. Welcome to École Massey grade 8 students to our DWF Live with Buffy Sainte-Marie. We're going to move on to Miss Smith to introduce her class.
Hi, we're from Arthur Peachy School in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Great. Great, thank you. And we're looking forward to hearing some of the questions from all of the students today. Do we have Mrs. Hart on the call today?
Yeah, we're here from Keewan School in Edmonton, Alberta.
Great, great. Thank you to Mrs. Hart's class. And do we have Miss Randall's class on today? I do see them on, but they may be experiencing some technical issues. So what we're going to do now that we have all of the students, and I know for a fact there are many other classrooms watching this, because I am getting many messages of people watching this right now on my phone. So what we're going to do is we're going to transition over to questions. But before we do that, I'm going to just ask for all of the educators, if you can, to turn on your cameras so that we can see you, and so Buffy Sainte-Marie can see you and all the students as well. So the first question that we have is one of the schools that was meant to be here. Actually, they are watching, but they weren't able to join. But they did submit a question. So the question is from Desiree Wu. She is a grade 2 teacher from El Dorado Public School in Brampton, Ontario. And their question to Buffy is, did you write the song Still This Love Goes On for children or for another reason?
You know, actually, I wrote the song kind of for myself because I was so lonesome. and I was just thinking about how it is at Pie Pots Reserve. I was adopted into Pie Pots Reserve as an adult. And just the way that it is, I wrote it for myself, really kind of to keep myself company because I travel so far away. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever been in an airport, but that's kind of where I live, and it's just not the same as being home. And I don't complain about it, but the feelings that I expressed in the song are really my own. And when I would sing it in concert, other people would like it too. So I guess that's why we decided to put it in a book.
Great. Thank you for answering that question for Mrs. Wu's class in El Dorado Public School. We are going to move on to another question. And we're going to go over to Nicole Massey, to the grade 8 students in Regina. And so if we can have you unmute, and if it's a student, to come up and to ask the question to Buffy.
We would like to ask you, what did you do, or do you hope to accomplish with your songs and books that you have written?
Oh, thanks for the question. And I'm real glad to see some grade 8 kids too, especially from Regina. And I know we have grade 1 as well. So I know you guys are all different ages. So it feels more like a family like this, you know. I think maybe what we as a team, and by that I mean myself, because I wrote the song a long time ago, and Julie Flett, who appreciated the feelings in the song and made those beautiful pictures, and the book company too. I think we all wanted to share something that felt real. And there's not really another song quite like this one. And I think we were hoping that it would mean something to you, you know? I mean, when I write, there's a lot of songs that I write just for myself and nobody ever hears them but me because they're so personal. But then there are other songs sometimes that other people like a lot. So you put a song out there and you hope that people take it into their own world and make something of it for themselves. So I and I think my teammates in making the book, I think we all were hoping to give something to you guys that you would enjoy and that would be meaningful to you, and maybe even inspire you to look around as wherever you are and make some kind of song. You know, when it comes to making songs, it can be about anything. And this one is very emotional, about family, about returning, about coming and going, visiting. You can go and then you can come back. People leave and then they come back. Someone greets them. You know, it's about really a lot of the warm and beautiful things about Indigenous communities, you know, including family, the jingle dancers, the singers, the music, the regalia, and then there is the everyday that each one of us is living in. So we always have these two things going on. We have our everyday, you know, life in Regina, and then we have our dreams, our art, our movies that we see, our imaginations. And you know what? They're equally important. And if you can get them to work together, sometimes you come up with a song or a book or something, but they're both real and imagination. They work together, and that's real creativity.
Great. Thank you, Buffy, for answering the question from Akol Massey. I am wondering if there is another question from our class at Akol Massey today. I see a couple heads shaking no, so that is okay. You can always maybe chime in later if you do have a really important question that you're really wanting to ask Buffy today. We're gonna move on to another school. I just want to first just acknowledge that one of the schools that we have on, Mrs. Randall's class from Keele Street Public School in Toronto. So given we're live streaming this across Canada in very many different time zones, our schools over in Eastern Canada are already wrapping up their school days. So unfortunately, their school bell rang, which is why we won't be getting any questions from them today. But we're going to pass it over to Kehiwin School in Edmonton. They are going to ask their question over audio as they do not have video at this time. So I'll pass it over to Kehiwin.
Great, thank you. At what age did you know you want to be a singer, and when did you become more well known? You might have to speak up a little bit.
I think you asked me at what age did I know I would be a singer? And when did I start becoming well known?
Yeah.
Is that right? Did I get right? Okay. Well, I always was able to write songs. That's how I played. You know, I didn't play Barbies and I didn't play sports. My sense of fun and play was always, you know, crayons and paints and dancing and music and just making up stuff and you know, playing the piano. That was the best toy I ever saw. But I wasn't a singer. I made up songs, and I've always been able to make up songs. So I went to college and I started singing the songs that I had been making up all my life for the girls in my dormitory. They liked them. And I was singing off campus at a little coffee house. You know, I've always been uncomfortable around alcohol, but I got well known when coffee houses were around, and young people would all go to these coffee houses, and they'd be sober and healthy and into the music, and it was really a wonderful time. So if those coffee houses had not been around, you know, and I could not have been with sober people, I would have had a real hard time, but I was very lucky. So when I got out of college, I took my guitar and I started traveling around, and I would play everywhere I could. And if you want to be a musician and in front of an audience, that's what you do. You just play anytime somebody will listen, you play. And so I became well known. I was probably about 21 or 22, and I made my first record, but I thought I was a terrible singer. And the only way that I had the courage to get on a stage and sing for thousands of people was that I believed in the songs. I knew they had never heard songs like this. Universal Soldier, and Codyne, and Now That the Buffalo's Gone, about a lot of different things, about things that anybody can know about. I mean, some of my songs are Indigenous, you know, they feel as though they're Indigenous, but they really are about justice issues or something that affects everybody. So I became very well known in the 1960s. And because I didn't like how I sounded on my first records, I just tried to sing more and more and more and more. All day long, I would just sing until my voice became stronger and did kind of what I wanted it to do a little bit. So I also started listening to myself as I sang so that I would be right on pitch. So as a songwriter, I was just kind of singing it out because I wanted somebody else to sing it. But there was only me. I was the only one singing the song, so I had to become a better singer. So sometimes that's what you have to do. If you want to get there and you don't know how to do what it takes to get there yet, you practice and practice and practice, and every day, and you just get better a little bit at whatever you practice, you get better at it, a little bit at a time.
Great, thanks for that answer, Buffy. We have a couple online questions. First of all, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Miss Dillon's class at Douglas Harkness School in Calgary, as I know their entire class is watching right now. But we have an online question from Melissa Zawadek. Her question to Buffy is, my class would like to know where Buffy lives now. They're a very curious bunch.
I live in Hawaii. And if you don't know where Hawaii is, if you look on the map of Turtle Island of North and South America, and if it's a world map and you see that North and South America are here and China's way over here, Hawaii is kind of right in the middle. We're right in the middle of the ocean. It's the most remote spot on Earth. It's even more remote. That means far away from everybody else. It's even more remote than Tibet. So it's kind of an isolated place, and it's very natural. When you think of Hawaii, you probably think of beaches, but I don't live near the beaches at all. That ocean is much bigger than I am, and I'm very careful around the ocean. I live in the mountains, and it looks a little bit like Banff, but not huge mountains. Pine trees, and I live on a farm with a whole bunch of goats and wild pigs and chickens, and so that's where I live. But when I was trying to live at Pie Pots, in the Capel Valley, it was wintertime and I had a concert coming up. Oh, and the airport was closed. I mean, it was, you know how it is in Saskatchewan in the winter. I mean, sometimes the airplanes are not going to fly. So I realized that I had to live someplace where I had year-round airport services. So I've lived in Hawaii since I was about 30, I guess. It's fun being a grown-up, by the way, if you take care of your health.
Great, and yeah, I'm familiar that you do live in Hawaii. I've had former professor Dr. Alex Wilson share that she's visited you out there as well.
It's my friend.
Yes, my former teacher.
She's wonderful.
Yeah. We're going to bring in our class from Arthur PG. If we can get you to get your student to ask your question to Buffy.
All right. You're going to go first, Callie?
What inspired you to write this book?
Love and feeling lonesome for people and culture. And, there are things that I love so much about our culture. I mean, I know we have a lot of hard things too, but there are things that I love so much that my own heart almost can't contain it all. So some songs I want to give to other people, because some songs kind of feel like medicine somehow. And we all have days when it's just you got the blues, and sometimes music can help with that, whether it's your own music or somebody else's music. So I thought that the song, the things that I was feeling and saying in the song, they were so real to me. I thought, well, the song came to my head and it just seemed like a package I could give to other people too. So I'm real glad that other people like this song.
And we had one more question from other students.
Sure.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Play with animals. That's what I would like to do. You know, when you're on a 21-hour flight to Europe, you sit there for a long time. And what I really would love to have at those moments, what I just dream of, is just sitting down and playing with a puppy or a kitty or a little goat, or, you know, hugging my horse. Or I just really love animals. And I think part of that comes from some of the troubles that I had when I was a child and I was feeling lonely. I could always count on my pets or somebody else's pet to cheer me up. And I did write a song called Hey Little Rockabye, which is about pet adoption. And one of the lines, it says, were you born on a cold winter day? Are you a poor little orphan? Did somebody throw you away? Well, now you get somebody loves you. Now you get somebody loves you. Meow, you get somebody loves you. So you can tell I really like animals. Thanks for the question. Does anybody else like animals? Oh, I see some hands go up. Yep. Yep. They're worth protecting.
Great. Thank you. Miss Knight, do we have any other questions from your class?
That was everyone. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks to Arthur Peachy, grade 5 class in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Next, we have a question from an online chat question from Burnaby School in British Columbia. The question to Buffy is, what is one of your favorite songs that you've written?
Oh gosh, it's hard to tell. There's one song that I like, and it's very different from any song that I've ever heard anywhere else. It's called Star Walker. It says, Star Walker, he's a friend of mine. You've seen him looking fine. He's a straight talker. He's a star walker. Don't drink no wine. And it kind of sounds a little bit like traditional powwow singing, but it's also a little bit different. It's kind of on its own. And there's a few songs that I have, you know, I say I've written, but it's almost like I received them. It's almost like I hear the song in my head and I feel as though it's just a gift from the creator that kind of showed up in my head and I got to write it down. Not all songs are like that. Some songs are a lot of writing and you want to be really factual. And other songs are just, you're so in love. Oh, you just express your heart. And then a song like Star Walker, I don't know where it comes from. So I really, really love it that we're doing this today. And if I could inspire even one young musician or songwriter to go for it and to just enjoy it and love it and write songs and spread songs and give them away, and I would be very happy. So I thank you for this day and your interest in songwriting and books and creativity.
Great. Thank you for answering the question coming from Burnaby School. We have another online question from Erlene Monteith. Her question is, of all places you have visited in the world, which country or peoples will you never forget?
Oh, a lot of them, but Guatemala. Guatemala, you know, Mayan people who, you know, in ancient times, when London was a little tiny place, you know, Mayan people had huge, huge cities of pyramids and palaces and astronomy observatories. And most of the world doesn't realize that. And there are still lots of Mayan people in Mexico and Guatemala and Belize and Honduras, in Central America. But they're very poor now. And they have a lot of problems. They have problems with wars and oppression and violence. You know, they're in a very terrible place. And still the people are so wonderful. They're very much like the people in Still This Love Goes On. They're real Indigenous people who have so much to share and who are having such a hard time. But it's a beautiful place. It's a troubled place. The people are so wonderful. It just makes me want to help to make things better there. So I've just loved it. I can say that the nicest thing about my career in music has been the airplane tickets that have enabled me to go to Indigenous communities in Australia, in Sweden and Norway and Finland, all over North America, a little bit in Central and South America. Peru is amazing. I think I'm a very fortunate person. And if you take care of yourselves, and when you get finished with school and you're going to travel, if you've taken care of yourself, there's a huge world out there with a lot of stuff that nobody even talks about that's so wonderful. Indigenous communities in the rest of the world too. And people everywhere, no matter what we see about war and just the terrible things that people do to each other sometimes, whether it's, at home or on television, besides that is a lot of good people, a lot of people trying hard, a lot of people helping each other, a lot of people having fun and making fun for others. So even though life gets tough sometimes, don't ever forget that there's a whole lot more out there that television isn't covering. A lot of good things. Like today, you guys are a part of it. We should be proud of that.
Great, thank you for that. And I think Guatemala is coming to the top of my travel list now with Buffy's recommendation. We have another, and it's a final question. This question is coming in from Facebook. It says, Buffy, from Dish with One Spoon Treaty Territory, I wonder, what do you think are some of the most important messages should Indigenous writers consider in books?
Fun, play, beauty, positivity. Because the realities of the world, we're dealing with a lot of painful stuff, and it's very real, and it's very important that we acknowledge, digest, try to grow towards making the changes that need to be made. But you know what? A lot of people are forgetting about fun. I think that school and just Indigenous progress, I love it when people are positive. I love Indigenous comedians. I love Indigenous artists, because these are people who, even when times are really rough, even when we're dealing with things like missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, when we're dealing with the realities of residential schools and the changes that we need to make, we mustn't lose our sense of positivity, because that's the energy that makes it possible. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with bad news. But here's a little piece of good news that you might want to share, because most people don't know this. And Donnie Wenjack Fund helped me to be part of making a video that maybe you'll be able to see at another time. And it's called, Finding Our Way, it's called Paddling on Both Sides. And what it's about is this. Did you know that team sports like lacrosse, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, did you know that team sports were invented on this side of the ocean? Team sports were invented by the Mayans thousands of years ago. They invented rubber, the rubber ball, the stadium, protective equipment like hip pads and shoulder pads and knee pads, helmets with animal logos, the bleachers. They invented team sports as we know it today. And a lot of people don't know that. And so that's what I mean. I think amid all the terrible things that we can learn, which we must learn, we have to remember the contributions that we've made, our connection to other Indigenous people. I mean, there were huge trade routes before colonial times. People were connected. People were inventing things. There were scientists. There were people. There was one indigenous man, a Blackfoot man. His name was Akut Komikiman. And he was the one who provided the information that Peter Fiddler from the Hudson's Bay Company, who was he was a surveyor, he learned about Akut Komikiman. Akut Komikiman made him a map of 200,000 square miles of Canada and the US. Huge, huge, huge map. And that was the first map that Europeans ever saw of the rest of Canada. Up until that point in 1801, they had only been as far as Hudson Bay. So there are contributions that Indigenous people have made that are really fun to know about. So that's why I'm saying I think that's what, even, I mean, so many writers are writing about important but sad issues. We need just as many. We need as bright a spotlight on the people who are writing about positivity and art and culture and contributions. The mainstream might not know about it, so learn about our positivities. I think they'll help us through the times that we have to deal with harder issues. Don't forget to have fun. Don't burn out. Have a bath, have a nap, have something to eat. Go forward, do something.
Great. Thank you, Buffy. I think that is a great way to wrap up the questions and answers part of this session. I do want to, you discussed that video, paddling on both sides. Just want to acknowledge that we have posted that in the chat, so everyone who is watching on the live stream will be able to access the link for that. But with that, thank you, Buffy, for joining us today. And thanks to Natalie Welsh for opening the session with a land acknowledgement. And a special thank you to everyone who participated in today's DWF Live. Secret Path Week continues with another virtual event tomorrow that you won't want to miss. Join us on Thursday, October 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern for a DWF Live with the Wenjack family. We will be tuning in live from Thunder Bay, Ontario with Channing Wenjack's sisters, Pearl Achipeneskam, Daisy Monroe, and Evelyn Baxter, plus Channy's niece, Harriet Visitor, along with Gord Downey's brother, Mike Downey, as they visit with students at Dennis Franklin Cromartie High School. The sisters are going to share stories about their brother and ways they are positively impacting community through health and education. You all can sign up at downeywenjack.ca. And with that, thank you all again and have a great day.
Inanas kamitin, everybody. Kitimigwech. And aloha.
Oh, there you go, Sugoli. Sorry about that. For letting me know. So Sugoli, Swagwag, Galahini, gets in Wagisli, Wagi Niwa Kitoloda, Yonko, Yukodonlos, or thank you, friends, for being here. Um, I just wanted to take a quick moment to pull up the video that Buffy was talking about. This was something that Buffy Sainte-Marie did and narrated and collaborated with the Buffy or the Downey Wenjack Foundation, and it's called Paddling on Both Sides. And I just wanted to show you since she brought that up, and it is something that Buffy has always been such a positive person, um, and through all of the hard topics that she discusses, she still does much of it in as positive a way as she can. So I'm going to get my mug off the screen here so that you can see this. This is again, called Paddling on Both Sides. It was a short video that was done by Buffy and in collaboration with the Donnie Wenjack Foundation.
Sometimes it seems there's just so much sad news about Indigenous people. Residential schools, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I mean, we do need to know and help others to know about these things. Make sure they don't continue to happen to anyone ever. But yikes, it's so sad. Hey, I got an idea. Let's talk about the opposites, too. All the good stuff invented by us, Indigenous people of the Americas. Like, did you know that team sports were invented by Indigenous people on this side of the water? And the rubber ball, too? And arenas with goalposts at either end? And bleachers for the spectators? And protective equipment like shoulder pads? And helmets with animal logos on them? It sounds like the NFL. So when it's hockey or baseball or lacrosse or football season, tell your friends and celebrate us. If all we think about is one side or the other, we just go in circles. So remember to paddle on both sides of the canoe. That's how you get somewhere.
So quite a perspective that we some often, like
So
she
firstly,
said,
thank
often
you.
forget
Thank you for
is
being here.
trying to grab onto some of the positive things that go on and that we've contributed. So that's just a way of making people think for a moment. Um, through all the hard things and subjects that we need to discuss, we also got to consider all the positive things that come along with our history as well. And so I think that was awesome for her to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for someone to raid. We will share a rendition of the Peaceful Warrior as we close out our stream, as we do with all of our streams. We always end with a rendition of the Peaceful Warriors. So I'm going to I'm going to go ahead and take my mug off the screen again. I think I'll go with the jazz rendition for today. So let me disappear like magic. When I get this in, the video is playing, I'll put in the raid calls. I hope that you will all stick around at least till we get to the next stream, or even if you can't stay, just come over and say hi, and we'll show some love for who we raid into. In the meantime, I appreciate everyone being here, and I will likely see you tomorrow when we listen to the Windjack sisters talk.
Our names are Marin Reese, and we're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease. What are we doing here? What do we really want to say? This world has got to change its way. We're going to battle for the red, white, yellow, and black. Fight for the ones who can't fight back. Oh, we're talking about all the creatures from the water to the sky. Talking about the issues from the truth to the lies. Gonna make my stand with a paper and a pen. You wanna argue that? Go back to bed again. 'Cause you're never gonna win against what I stand for. So sit down and shut up and listen as I give my grand tour. I'm gonna target the corruption in our government, target the poison in our environment, the injustices to the people in every target, I won't keep still. Gonna battle the battle of battles, shake up the cage till it rattles, 'cause you'll never get rid of me till all of us are free. Our names are Mare and Reese, and we're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease. Gonna fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. Gonna fight for the ones who can't fight back. Let's keep passing around information, improve the planet through education, make the people aware, make everybody care. Pass my message on if you dare. Mine or yours, we all gotta share. There's more power in one person's voice than any weapon of choice. Our names are Mare and Reese, and we're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease, but we won't be able to move this world all alone. Just remember, this is also your home. So if I put my voice with your voice, and we all shout together, people are gonna hear us. Things are gonna get better. Our names are Mare and Reese. We're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease. All senseless attacks we see must cease. Such a silly thing.